Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Music Den. I am, of course, your host, Armando Venditti. Hoping you guys are having a good day, morning, afternoon, whenever you happen to be watching this. So, ladies and gentlemen, here we are finally at the Black Sabbath album ranking episode. Uh, Bill Schuster, who you see on the panel tonight, and I have been talking about this show since about May. So, we decided to bring in some more people. So, tonight we have Bill Schuster and his son Neil. How's it going, guys?
Good, doing good.
There we go. Good to know. We have Mr. Peter Kent. How's it going, Peter?
Hi, Amanda. Good, thanks. Yep, going good.
And in the finally, we have Mr. Ryan Gavalier.
Hi.
He's going to make me laugh tonight, guys. It's going to be a hell of a show. This is take 3, by the way. So, ladies and gentlemen, Black Sabbath from Birmingham, England. Started out as a blues band by the name of Earth, have gone through many lineup changes over the years. The original lineup consisted of Ozzy Osbourne, Geezer Butler, Bill Ward, Tony Iommi. Some people say that the Osbourne lineup is the quintessential lineup. Some people would say that the Ronnie James Dio lineup is the quintessential lineup. Some people also like the Tony Martin lineup. But you know what? Everyone has their own opinion. So what we're going to do here, guys, is we're going to attempt to rank our favorite Black Sabbath albums 19 to 1. So it's a long show. It's a long list. Grab some food, grab a drink, grab a joint, smoke up, relax, and enjoy. What we're going to do here is we're going to do, excuse me, albums 19 to 11. We're going to take a break at that point because some of us are older. We need a bathroom break. Then we're going to come back and rank 10 to 1. Okay. So, in keeping up with being a good host, I'm going to let Bill Schuster and his son Neil go first. Then we're going to go Peter and then Ryan and myself. So, on with the show.
All right. Thank you, Armando. All right. I'll just say the bottom few were not super difficult, but they were a bit of a chore, surprisingly.
Yeah.
My number 19 is Tear. That may surprise some people. I actually like the Tony Martin era overall, at least historically. I thought I did, but maybe I don't like it as much as I thought I did when I was younger. I think Cozy Powell was a great drummer, obviously, but I guess I'm not a big fan of him as a co-leader, essentially, of Black Sabbath. Uh, and he had a big hand in the albums that he was featured on in the Tony Martin era. And I don't know, it's just not much sticks with this album. It sounds good while it's playing, but the only thing that really stays with me after is Tony saying Valhalla, and that just makes me think of how much better Ian Anderson sang that word in Cold Wind to Valhalla and Jethro Tull. So that's not a good sign when I'm thinking of Jethro Tull and listening to Sabbath. So that's
I
all I had
see
to
the
say about
connection now.
it. There is definitely a connection there. I got that Tony Iommi Jethro Tull connection in.
Yep. There you go. There you go. Yep. Okay. All right. No, it's a good choice. It's a good choice. Neil, what about you?
My bottom of the barrel is going to be Forbidden. It's interesting enough instrumentally. I think vocally, Tony Martin kind of phoned that one in, and I'm a Tony Martin fan. But overall, I just think his performance was uninspired, and I feel like even with it being interesting instrumentally, it didn't really feel cohesive as a project. It seemed a little sporadic as what they wanted to do. And even I'll even forgive the iced tea feature because the instrumental for that one is my favorite, but that's also where I kind of disconnect the vocals from the record because the instrumental for that one sounds like a straight up doom metal, but then you get the vocals over the top and the 20-second iced tea feature, and you're kind of wishing you were just watching Law and Order instead.
Okay.
Basically, what I have to say about Forbidden.
That's about it. Is that it? Okay. Okay. Peter, what about you?
I went for Forbidden at number 19 as well. Yeah, Forbidden. I just think I haven't had much experience with the Tony Martin era, but nothing really got through to me much. I'm not big on the collaboration with Ice-T. Also, there's a couple of decent songs. Get a Grip. I didn't mind that one, but nothing really stays with you after you hear it, sort of thing. I think he's got a really good voice, though, Tony Martin. He's got great range. But yeah, nothing sticks. Not too much to say about. Nothing really sticks. So yeah, number 19, Forbidden. Yeah.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, just so you know, sometimes Peter's audio cuts in and out. So we're going to be dealing with that possibly throughout the show. So just think of it as part of the charm of the show. So, okay.
Yeah. No refunds.
No refunds. That's right. No refunds. Okay, Ryan. Ryan, you're number 19.
My number 19 is 13.
Okay.
I mean, it's just like a very lazy album, a lot of rehashed riffs. It's auto-tune soaked Ozzy, which isn't inherently bad, but I'd rather listen to any of the other vocals on these albums than that, to be honest. Most of the songs are just pretty boring. Like I said, very unoriginal. Largely, I think, because they went in with the ethic of just basically making an album that was a repeat of the first couple. It's just boring, in my opinion. I was excited when it came out. I listened to it, and I really haven't felt much desire to revisit it since. I've maybe listened to it 3 or 4 times in my entire life, and I'm okay with leaving it as is. So that's my 19.
Okay, just quickly, what do you think of Rick Rubin's production overall?
I mean, what did he actually do? That's
Okay.
the real question.
All right.
What he always does.
Okay.
Yeah,
Here you go, artist. There's the studio. See you later. Do what you do.
yeah.
There you go. There you go. Okay. Well, guys, and ladies and gentlemen out there, my number 19 is Forbidden. From I was gonna say from 85. It's one of those days, guys. From 95. Not a memorable album. You know, the illusion of power with the 20-second Ice-T rap. It's like everyone was talking everyone was talking about how, you know, how Ice-T ruined the album. The guy's on the album for like 20 seconds. It's not like he did like a minute and a half interplay of rap and vocal between him and Tony Martin. So, you know, but overall, the songs are not that memorable. You know, Get a Grip, you know, Can't Get Close Enough, you know, Shaking Off the Chains. It's not that memorable of an album. The production to me sounds a bit muddy. Tony Iommi has said he's going to be doing or actually I believe I read that he has done a remix of the album,
Yes.
but that the release of it isn't the right time yet. So anyways, that
There's
is
supposed to be a
my
box.
what was that?
There's supposed to be a box set coming out relatively soon. I don't know exactly when, but
Oh yeah, I should say too. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, Tony Iommi announced recently that sometime in May there's a box set coming out of the Tony Martin years of the Black Sabbath albums. He's sometime in May. There was no definite date given yet, I don't think. So yeah, so that's my number 19. Okay. Back to Bill and Neil. What is your number 18, Bill?
Well, speaking of that Tony Martin box set, I'll just pick an album from that. I'm going to Tears' sister album, so to speak, Headless Cross. It's essentially the same story as with Tear, except with satanic themes instead of Nordic themes. Like Sabbath should not sound like a pale, mediocre copy of itself, and to me, that's what these albums feel like. it's like they're trying to be Sabbath, but the parts are not quite strong enough and the songs are not quite strong enough. I mean, it's not a bad album. If it was just some anonymous band, I'd okay, fine. But this is Black Sabbath. I expect better. So yeah, it's not bad, but I outside of this, I couldn't tell you the last time that I listened to this album. The only reason I listened to say these bottom four albums for the first time in years was because of this ranking. So that should speak for itself, I guess.
I'm honored. Okay.
I suffered for you, Armando.
Yes, you do, Bill. Okay. No, it's a good choice. I mean, and again, just because, well, for me anyway, just because these albums are at the bottom of the list, it's like not that they're necessarily bad, like that they're crappy. It's just you got to put these albums in some kind of an order for a list, right? So, all
Yeah, I
right.
feel bad. I hope Tony Martin's not watching this because I've always kind of liked the guy.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Let's hope he's not watching this. Okay. Okay, Neil, what's your number 18?
My number 18 is Never Say Die. I'll just, as a whole, was not a fan of the record. I think I don't know if it was just the turmoil in the band at the time, or maybe that they were trying to experiment with certain sounds that I don't think the band members were necessarily equipped to do, or they started adding a lot of electronic stuff behind the music without an official keyboard player. And I feel like compositionally that kind of made a difference. I've always been you hire a guy to play the instrument and he sticks with that instrument as opposed to, well, I'm our guitarist, but I'm also going to be our bassist now. Just hire a bassist. It'll sound better. And I think this record suffered from a lot of that because it's not even necessarily bad as a whole, just not one of my favorites from Sabbath.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay, Peter, number 18.
Number 18, I went for Cross Purposes. Number 18. More of the same, like Forbidden, but a little bit better for me. But again, nothing real memorable. And I'll keep saying I haven't had much time with these Tony Martin albums, but nothing seemed to stick again with this album. I just I played it a couple of times before the show the last few days, and nothing's getting through at the moment. Maybe I'm just used to the older albums, I guess. I'm not sure. But, yeah, but nothing sticks. Yeah, so probably a little bit better than Forbidden, though. Yeah, so Cross Purposes. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Ryan, you're number 18.
18's Forbidden for me. I don't really think it's a terrible album. Other than 13, I don't think Black Sabbath's made a bad album. Um, like Ice-T thing, it's like 20 seconds. I don't mind it. I like rap music. He's not really one of the better rappers out there, in my opinion. But it was good. It's fine. And I feel like this album, it has some decently heavy stuff on it, some doomy stuff. I think Tony's fine vocally on it, although I do have to agree with Neil that it isn't like his best work. Um, I do think there's a little bit too much like light stuff ballads on it for its own taste. It feels a little bit uneven as an album as a whole. I do think the production's a little bit lackluster, especially compared to how good Cross Purposes sounded. Because I think that's sonically one of the best sounding Sabbath records, and then this one kind of really dropped the ball in terms of sonics. It's not a bad album though. It's just not one of my particular favorites by the band. It's not overly memorable. It's definitely the weakest of the Tony Martin era for me, which I do tend to like. But it's also an album I've probably only listened to like 3 times max. I didn't really do a ton of homework on this because I've listened to all these albums like a million times, to be
Yeah, you
completely
said
honest,
that.
except for a couple. But this one when I've gone back to it, it's fine. Like I said, it's definitely not a bad album, but it's just the weaker the bunch.
Okay. All right. I did have a quick question.
Mhm.
Um, the general consensus what I'm hearing from people, from other people, is that the the 80s albums, the late 80s albums are like the weaker albums of the whole catalog overall. Like my question is, do you think maybe they should have taken a bit of a break and sort of reassessed what to do musically instead of carrying on like every couple of years with a new album? Or this is
I'll,
goes out to everybody. I mean,
I'll let my ranking do the talking.
okay, all right,
Yeah.
I'd say there is not necessarily a they to reconsider. It was all Tony.
Wasn't
yeah,
Seven
yeah,
Sonic supposed to be just a Tony Iommi solo record too?
Yeah.
So I
Seventh
think
star.
yeah. The
that might
seven,
be part of
Yeah,
seven
why.
seven
stuff.
star, seven star. Yeah.
Yeah, that might
Yeah.
be why you didn't end up getting any type of break from him when you tried to take a break and make a solo record. The record label said, "Hey, man, how
That's
about
right.
you be Black Sabbath so you can make some money?"
Yeah.
That's right. I think it was either Vertigo, just quickly, I think it was either Vertigo or Warner Brothers that said, look, we should make this a market as a Black Sabbath album. It'll it'll
Warner.
it'll work more. Warner, it was Warner.
I do have that prop.
There we go. There we go. Okay. All right. My number 18 is Cross Purposes from 94. It's an okay album. Songs like Eyewitness, Crown of Thorns. The one track that I heard, when I was reading up on the albums, the one track that came out that people were talking about more was Psychophobia, which is okay. I mean, it's heavy. Virtual Death is okay. But again, I don't know. It's just there's just something missing from these albums.
Yeah,
From
yeah,
the Tony Martin era. I don't know. I mean, Tony Martin's a good vocalist. It's just I don't. It is. They're not grabbing me like I thought they would. You know what I mean? It's just it isn't. I don't know. Anyways, that's my number 18. So back to the top. Bill, number
All
seven.
right. That's also my number 17. Cross Purposes.
mm,
I think it's a slight improvement over Tear and Headless Cross. So maybe it's because Geezer's back. Maybe because Bobby Rondinelli is in there on drums, who I like. I mean, I still think of him as a former Blue Oyster Cult drummer, but more than Sabbath or Rainbow or anybody else. I've always liked his drumming though. So I don't know, maybe those, and also because maybe Tony Martin, I think at this point, his last two albums as a member, I think he became a bit more of himself rather than trying to sound like a Black Sabbath singer. I mean, for ill or good, that's up to the individual listener, but that's one of the things I slightly like about it is that it doesn't feel to me like he's trying to be, say, Ronnie James Dio or something like that.
mm.
Yeah.
So
I'll just say quickly. Iommi said in his biography that after the Headless Cross, they kind of told him to rein it in a little bit on the death lyrics and like
yeah,
death and dying and all that, like the satanic stuff. More be more subtle in your approach in terms of the lyrical content. Don't hit him over the head with a hammer about death and Satan and all that kind of stuff. And whatever. But yeah, I get
He said,
it.
"How about Thor?"
I get it. I
And then
get it.
Tony was like, "All right, man, I mean, it's good, but like, we kind of the same, man. We did."
Yeah, I get it. I get it. Okay, so Neil, when
All
you
right. 17, I have 13. I think it tries, like Ryan said, way too hard to be a Black Sabbath record and to essentially capture the sound of the original band. I think some of that was Rick Rubin's doing because I know that's kind of how he is as a producer. He'll take a band and try and make them sound like that band as opposed to having them experiment. Uh, that being said, the record does sound good. I like the production enough. The guitars and the bass are present enough for me, and everything sounds nice. You can hear the details as far as the drum fills go, but it just feels like it's trying too hard, for lack of a better description, to become a Sabbath record and to become that old Sabbath. And it just shouldn't have been. Should have been something new.
Okay. Yeah, all right. Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay. Peter, you're number 17.
Number 17, I got Seventh Star, the one that was supposed to be a Tony Iommi solo album, but the record company had other ideas. So, yeah, I like it better than the other two albums I had. No Stranger to Love is a good song, pretty good song, like that one. Also like Seven Star, the title track, and In for the Kill. They're the main three I like on the album. Rest is a bit up and down, but Glenn Hughes is the vocalist, really superb vocalist, Glenn Hughes.
Yeah.
So no problems there, but just the material. Yeah, I just find myself gravitating to two or three songs, and that's about it. Yeah, but a big improvement over the other two, but still not there for me. But yeah, and so Seventh Star, number 17.
Okay. All right. Ryan, you're number 17.
My 17's tier. It's a good album. I feel like it like kind of as I think Bill, you said it sounds really good as you're playing it, but it's not like overly memorable. I do think it's better than Forbidden in terms of the Tony Martin era, but I feel like the production's not the best on it. It definitely has like a 1989 kind of sound. Um, Maybe a little bit heavy on the keyboards, and I like keyboards, but I feel like they kind of drown out some of the other stuff, make it a little thin sounding at times. Um, I just feel like thematically the album, I feel like it has more interesting titles than it does actual songs. Like I feel like um it was trying to like go for some cool like Norse mythology stuff, but then you actually listen to the lyrics and it kind of drops the ball on that. There's some decent riffs here and there, but nothing really to write home about. Tony gives good vocal performances. But I think his other three albums I'm gonna mention later all have better vocal performances from him too. I just think it's kind of a middle of the road, or not even middle of the road, kind of weaker Black Sabbath album, but it's still solid. I still revisit it. Anno Mundi, I like that track a lot. I think that's probably the biggest song off of the album, and it's a really good one. But it's a pretty mediocre album as a whole.
Okay. Okay. We must carry on, ladies and gentlemen. My number 17 is Seven Star. As we were saying, it came out in 86. I don't know. I can't get behind this album. I mean, he wanted, as we were saying, Tony Iommi wanted to do a solo album. It was either Warner Brothers or Vertigo at the time. I don't know if they were still with, I think they were still with Vertigo at this point, that said, we can, I think it was Warner Brothers that said this, that we can market it better, or, if it promoted better, if it was labeled a Black Sabbath release. And that's why it says Black Sabbath featuring Tony Iommi. It's like, whatever. I mean, and then I don't know if it worked or not. Songs like In for the Kill, No Stranger to Love, he should not do relationship songs. I'm sorry. Like, have you ever seen the video for that song? It's just, he's not convincing as a leading man. You know what I mean? In terms of like, I'm sorry.
He was dating Lita Ford at the time. That's
what I was
convincing
gonna
to me.
say. And the only thing he
Pretty
said good about
convincing,
that
damn it.
relationship was he got the ring back. That's all he was said. That's all he said in interviews. It's like, I got the ring back. Okay. So, and then she went on to do, that duet with Ozzy Osbourne, Close My Eyes Forever. I mean, like, So, Turn to Stone is an okay track. I do like Sphinx. I gotta say, I like the instrumentals on these albums. Like, cause they're like a minute, 10 seconds here, 2 minutes there. I like because they act as like, like a bridge, like a segue between tracks, right? I like the instrumentals. Um, yeah, it is what it is. So yeah, that's my number 17. 7 star. So back over to Bill and Neil. So
All
Bill,
right.
what's number 16?
My number 16, I'm finally getting on board and throwing Forbidden out there. Um, I think the reason I have Forbidden ranked higher than the others partially is because of Ernie C's production, partially because of the weirdness of this album. I actually really do like the title cut, and yeah, I get it's a weird vocal from Tony, but that's one of the things that makes it stand out for me. I think it's not necessarily that some of these songs are great, but that they don't blend together quite as much as some of the other Martin era albums do.
Okay.
And I like Rusty Angels for the same reason. It doesn't sound like a Sabbath song, but it also doesn't sound like all the other songs on the album.
Mhm.
So I've just always kind of like that for what it is, and not really as this is a Sabbath song. It should sound a certain way.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's still not an album I'm going to pull out anytime soon again. But if it happened to be on in the background, I'd be okay with it. I wouldn't cry or run away. But is that damning with faint praise?
Pretty much.
All right. Sorry, Tony.
It's okay. It's okay. You know what? Everyone's got
Great
their
vocalist.
opinion. Everyone's got their opinion. There are no right or wrong answers. This is buddy opinions, and
Yeah, and I do like the Ice-T appearance, as brief as it is. I kind of enjoyed that. But I like Roll the Bones too, so you might just want to ignore me.
Well, I'm just gonna say about the Ice-T appearance. Everybody was making like when people were slamming this album, and people were slamming this album pretty badly. They're like, "Oh, Ice-T and Black Sabbath." It's not like Neo said. It's a 20-second
Yeah.
segment.
Mm.
It's
He
not
put 4 bars on the track.
exactly. So okay, Neo, number 16.
Number 16, I have Headless Cross. I think musically, it's a nice record. It sounds good, and there's interesting riffs. I think, like you had mentioned earlier from Tony's biography or autobiography, it would have been the lyrics that really got me. Listening to it back to back to back like that kind of really just set in for me how forced and corny it felt. And I could see why Tony would have a problem with it. Because after the, I can't even remember how many tracks are on the record offhand. But after listening to it straight through, I was kind of under the impression that it was just a 13-year-old starting up his metal band. It's like the vocals sound good. The lyrics just, you could tell he wanted to be a Black Sabbath vocalist and he wrote them from that type of perspective. So I see why they told him to kind of pump the brakes on it because, oh,
Almost like he was auditioning for the band.
Mhm.
Right?
almost, yeah.
Okay.
Like he had to make sure that all the fans were on board too. Like, hey, you see me? Don't hate me, guys.
Okay.
Basically, all I have to say on it, though.
Okay. All right. Oh, someone's calling somebody.
Oh, that's all right.
Okay. Peter, you're number 16.
Number 16, I've got The Eternal Idol. So another Tony Martin album from 1987. Sounds good to me, the production. I really like the opening track, The Shining. It's a good track. Other tracks, I'll just get them up here. I haven't got a copy of the album. What do we got?
Okay.
Just a second. I've lost my page. Yeah, just yeah, it's a bit better than the other albums. The Shining's a good track, and it's got another couple of good tracks. I've only heard this album once or twice, so I've just really got into the Tony Martin in the weeks prior to this video. So yeah, for me it's a little bit better than the other albums, but just doesn't quite get there for me. But yeah, decent enough. Yeah. So The Eternal Idol. It's
Okay,
16. Yeah.
cool. All right. Ryan, number 16.
Technical Ecstasy. And I like this album. Like from here on, all these albums are like pretty much very good albums for me. That's just how much I like Black Sabbath, but I had to put it somewhere.
Okay.
I feel like it has a lot of really good songs on it. Like it's got Backstreet Kids, Dirty Women. It's got It's All Right, which is one of Bill Ward's very few vocal performances. I love that song. That's a great ballad.
Yeah.
You know, there's some other pretty good stuff on it, but I just feel like the reason I had it so low, it's just not really an album I revisit quite as much, even though I do think it's good. I just don't jump for it very often. It's definitely not one of their heavier albums, which when I'm listening to Sabbath, I do kind of want heavier a lot of the time, to be honest. Um, so I think that kind of puts it a little bit lower for me. And I just feel like even though the songs are good, it's not like top shelf Sabbath, if I'm being real. So yeah, I have that 16. It's still like a 7 out of 10 record for me. Like I think
Okay.
it's really, really good, but
Mm.
I like their other stuff better.
Oh, cool. Cool. Yeah, oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. My number 16, ladies and gentlemen, is the Eternal Idol. And ladies and gentlemen, Peter and I did not talk about this at all because I know it's the last two or three we've kind of matched. We did not chat about it, did we, Peter? Nothing.
Nah, not at all. Not at all. Just it just came out that way.
Yeah, the Eternal Idol from 87. I like it. It is a good album. It's, again, for me, the 80s albums do suffer from like what I call the 80s production style kind of thing. But songs like The Shining are good. Ancient Warrior, Hard Life to Love, okay. Glory Ride, Born to Lose, Nightmare, Scarlet Pimpernel, the instrumental. Um, Lost Forever, and the title track. It is a good album. I do. If I'm wrong, if I'm not wrong, Eric Singer's on drums on this album. Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah, yes, he is. Yeah.
heavy drums in my opinion. Fantastic drummer. So yeah, that's my number 16. So on to back over to Bill.
All right. Well, I'm almost to the point that Ryan is with. After this one, I'll say every album beyond this, I like a fair deal. But I'm going to have to throw 13 under the bus first as well. And yeah, what you guys said, I can pretty well echo it. It's pretty much the same basic thing I have in my notes here. They are trying too hard to recreate that early Black Sabbath sound. And yeah, it's kind of more of the same. If I want to listen to that, I'll just go back and listen to those early albums. Why do I need this? Why not do something modern? And to be blunt, I almost wanted to put this last because I still hold a grudge over a decade later about the fact that Bill Ward was not included. That's my personal vendetta against the band. Yeah, I really think they should have found a way to make it work. They had one opportunity to get the original band back together, and they whiffed. Yeah, so yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
you 13. I won't be listening to you anytime soon.
yeah. Just quickly, there were rumors that Bill Ward did not come back because they could not sell on a contract. And like, guys, this is a little bit of a tangent here. This is the original lineup. What the hell
Yeah.
are we doing talking about contracts? Do you know what I mean? Like,
Exactly.
I'm
Give up a few
sorry.
more dollars and settle it. Make it happen.
Like, you're Black
Yeah.
Sabbath. You've got money. He's the original drummer. You know what I mean? Like, that lineup had something to do with the original sound, the original success. So I agree with Bill. But anyways, I move on. Neil,
Let's see, we were on 16, right?
15.
15.
15.
Yeah.
Let's see here. 15, since I rearranged it, would have been Tear for me. And it kind of falls into a lot of the same problems that I have with Headless Cross, where, like I kind of joked about earlier, they told him to put the brakes on about all the Satan stuff, and he said, "All right, I'm gonna go for Thor instead." It's still, I like it musically, and Anno Mundi, for instance, that one is an awesome song. It was the album opener for a reason. It's a kick-ass song, but I think the rest of the record falls off a little bit from there. And it's not even necessarily that it's a bad record because I do like them. It's kind of like you guys have said, most of them from here are records I actually really enjoy. It's just compared to some of the others, that's where this one falls because it really just has that one real big highlight track for me.
Mhm, mhm. Mhm. Cool. Mhm. All right, Peter.
I got number 15 as well, Tear, number 15 from 1990. Starts off really well with Anno Mundi. I agree there. That's a really good track. I really like also Jerusalem and the
Mhm.
Sabbath Stones. Really good tracks. The Lawmaker. It starts pretty good, but then it just falls away for me. But yeah, I sort of this is one of my favorite Tony Martin ones, behind the other one that's a bit coming later. But really good album, but they're getting better, but not doesn't quite get there. But yeah, so number 15 tier, number 15, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Cool. We're gonna find out how the number our rankings are the same or how close we are in proximity, like give or take, right? Um, Ryan, number 15.
The Humanizer.
Okay.
Once again, it's pretty good. It's like a 7 out of 10 record for me. It's pretty heavy. It has some really great songs on it, like um, uh, TV Crimes, Computer God. There's some pretty solid stuff. Um, I feel like my issue with this album, if I have any at all, is that I think it almost is kind of like Bill you were talking about earlier. I feel like some of the songs kind of blend together on this album. And I didn't used to quite feel this way, but it's been like over the years as I've revisited it more. This used to be one of my favorite Black Sabbath albums, but it just is kind of slowly dropped over time. And like, um, I feel like there's a lot of Dio trying to sound really angry on the album, and I just feel like angry Dio wasn't always the best Dio. I feel like when he starts getting on that like snarly kind of stuff, it just sounds goofy sometimes. And I think that happens occasionally on here. Um, and while it is a really heavy album, I feel like it's almost in kind of like a murky and muddy way. It's not always that like the riffs are really top notch. It just kind of like it kind of blends into that like 90s heavy kind of sound where it's just kind of really dredging at times. But I'd like it though. Like it's got some really classic songs on it. There's nothing terrible on it. Um, I think there's one, I mean, like, uh, I need to look up the song name real quick. It's, yeah, Sins of the Father, I'm not huge on. I don't really love Time Machine, even though that was kind of the big song on the album. Just never really did too much for me. Um, Master of Insanity is pretty good though. There's there's just a few songs, Letters from Earth, I'm not huge on. Um, I don't know. It's pretty good overall. Like I said, it's probably like a 7 out of 10 record for me. It's not bad, but there's stuff I like more.
Okay. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, and panel at large, my number 15, my number 15 is Tear. released in 1990 again. Yeah, at this point, this is where they said that Tony Martin cut back on the satanic type of lyrics and talk about death and stuff. And so he went for, you know, um, themes of Nordic gods, and even the album cover, like I mean, it's got that frame and inside the frame, like the dark black clouds, and I like that. I like the cover on it too. Songs like Anno Mundi is good. The Lawmaker Jerusalem, I like. Sabbath Stones. I do like the three tracks, the Battle of Tyr, Odin's Court, and Valhalla. All three as a sequence. I like that sequence. Feels good to me. No. It's the one track that doesn't feel good to me at all. Okay, I mean, it just stands out on the album, right? And it's the one track that breaks away from the Nordic thematic, stuff about Valhalla and all that kind of shit. Heaven in Black, yeah, it is a good album. It might go up the list eventually, but right now it's number 15 for me. And at this point, they were signed to IRS Records, I believe, I believe it was the UK, because Vertigo had dropped them at this point. So back over to Bill.
Yeah, which that IRS thing's still weird to me to this day, because I think of IRS as like like the old REM label and bands like that. The alternative rock bands from the 80s were big on the IRS label,
Yeah.
so to Sabbath on that was bizarre.
Yeah, well, it was actually Miles Copeland who offered him a deal and said, you guys are Black Sabbath, just do what you're gonna do, what you do, and I'll make it work, right? And so,
And it didn't work so well, but
okay, all right. You're number 14.
Number 14, I could essentially just say go back and listen to what Ryan just said. Dehumanizer, pretty much same thing. I think I like the raw, angry vibe a little more maybe than Ryan does, but now next time I listen to it, I'm going to be listening more closely to Dio's vocals and listening for the cheesy sounds and his anger there. Ryan may have just ruined that album for me. I don't know. But yeah, I do still like it. I enjoyed it when it came out, and I played it quite a bit. But I haven't played it in a long time, so it was nice to revisit it. I do really enjoy it overall. But here it sits.
Okay. All right. Neil?
My number 14 was Technical Ecstasy. And like I said, from 15 on, basically are all awesome records. So it's not to slight it at all, because I still love the record, but I just like a lot of other stuff better. Like You Won't Change Me, Gypsy, and Dirty Women, I think were my favorite tracks off of the record. I think it dipped into the experimental side of things, for a lack of better description, a little bit better than the follow-up record would have. I think the follow-up was just everyone was on too many drugs and a little like, we need to get Ozzy out of here. You could tell at that point. So I still enjoy the record. It has a lot of good cuts. It's just not one of my favorites.
Okay. All right. Bill? Sorry. Peter. It's been one of those days.
Number 14, I went for 13. Number 14. I remember playing this a lot when I first got it, but then it sort of went on the shelf after that. So, played it for quite a bit. I remember liking End of the Beginning and God Is Dead, and in a lesser extent, Loner. That's really about it. Rick Rubin, he tried to get the early Black Sabbath sound, but didn't really work, did it? Those two tracks, Loner. Probably they should have went for a bit of a new feel of the albums, not the trying to find the old style. But Yeah, good for 2 or 3 songs, but yeah, I haven't played it for ages though. Yeah,
Okay.
that's my number 14.
Okay. Ryan, 14?
My 14's Headless Cross. Pretty good album. I like the keyboards on here, honestly. Um, I think they added a nice touch to it. There's definitely some heavy riffs, some good vocal performance from Tony. I mean, his vocals on that title track, he hit some high notes on that one. He's really solid. I mean, I always say it about Tony Martin, and it's a hot take for sure, but like, is he the best Black Sabbath frontman? No, but he's definitely the best Sabbath vocalist. He has a better voice than all of them, in my opinion.
Okay.
And I will stand by that. He definitely showcases this on here. I mean, this has some good out songs on it. It's got Headless Cross, it's got Devil's Daughter, or Devil and Daughter, Black Moon, a few other really good ones on here. It's just a solid, heavy album. I agree with Neil that some of the lyrics are a little bit hammy at times. They're going a little bit too hard on forcing the whole Satanism thing. Um, when Black Sabbath's never even been a satanic band or anything, so it does come off as kind of goofy. But I think the album as a whole is pretty cool, though.
Okay. All right. My number 14 is 13. Pretty much with what you
You
guys
guys talked. You fucking bullshitter.
I'm saying they got like 1 for 1 to 1.
I'm missing something. What's going on?
No copying.
Yeah, that's what Peter had.
Yeah, same thing.
So what?
Yeah,
Deal with it.
Armando didn't listen to any of these. He's just waiting to hear what Peter says.
he said, yeah.
Bullshit. Okay. Number 13, release in 13. I don't know. I do hear it does remind me a lot. Sorry, I'll say it this way. It does remind me a lot of the debut album. You know, songs like End of the Beginning, God is Dead, Loner, Zeitgeist. I mean, they're okay. I do think that they were, like you guys said, that they were trying to recapture something from the early days, maybe from the debut album. I don't know. Damaged Soul. Dear Father is a scathing track lyrically. But autotune or not, I couldn't tell if he, Ryan said Ozzy's vocals were autotune. I couldn't tell myself. Sorry, itching. Oh God. But yeah, I was excited when this album came out, but I really haven't touched it since. So that's my number 14. So back over to Bill. No copying.
No copying. All right. I'm going with, surprising to myself, the Eternal Idol at number 13.
Damn it, he said no copy.
This is clearly, the best in my view of the Martin era. I've always loved this album ever since it came out. I'm actually a big fan of it. And The Shining is absolutely a top tier Sabbath track.
Yes, sir.
Wow. Yeah. But the whole album is consistently good. And yes, as I believe, Armando, you pointed out Eric Singer's drums.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of his brief tenure in Sabbath as the drummer. I could care less about what he's done with Kiss since then, but I really liked his time in Sabbath. I think he did an excellent job. So, the sad thing about this being the best of the Tony Martin era for me is that Tony didn't have a hand in the writing. So sorry, Tony, I didn't mean to give you another unintended insult there. Good job on the vocals. Did well.
Okay. Neil?
Man, I'm gonna have to copy now.
Go for it.
I also have Eternal Idol, and it's a record I love, especially with The Shining. I think like he said, that's one of my favorite, if not my favorite Sabbath track. It's heavy hitting, and it basically does everything I want out of a hard rock heavy metal song. It gets me excited. I want to sing along with the chorus. I want to break in with the riffs and play along. It's kick-ass track. Starts off a kick-ass album. Born to Lose and the title track, I think, are both awesome cuts as well. The riffs are great throughout the entire record, and I think the production sounds really good. I Yeah, it's just an awesome record, honestly. It's one that I can throw on and I enjoy start to finish.
Oh, cool. Cool. Peter?
Yeah, number 13, Headless Cross, my favorite from the Tony Martin era.
No
I love
copying. My God.
I like the title track. It's probably my favorite song from the Tony Martin era. Devil and Daughter is really good too. And When Death Calls, and I believe Brian May played on that.
On the first
Yes,
solo, yeah.
When Death Calls, yeah. And good finish with Nightwing. I like that song too. Yeah, still a bit up and down, but I think it's got more to like than the other Tony Martin albums for me. And with the Headless Cross, I really like his vocal on that. Really good song. Yeah, so that's my favorite Tony Martin album. So that's number 13, Headless Cross. Yeah.
Okay, Ryan, number 13.
My number 13 is Seventh Star. I actually dig the hell out of this album. Talk about another great vocalist for Black Sabbath, Glenn Hughes. I mean, guy's got some pipes on him. This album has some classic songs. Like the title track, Seventh Star, is one of my favorite Black Sabbath tracks. That song kicks ass with that cool, like steady drum beat, that like nice doomy riff on it. Angry Heart's a song I've liked since I was a kid. I've always enjoyed that song a lot. Good riff on there, cool keys and stuff. In for the Kills, pretty cool. Danger Zone. Heart Like a Wheel's a little too bluesy. Like it's kind of like almost a little corny, but it's still a pretty good track. The production on here, I've heard it get complained about a lot. I think it's actually a pretty cool sounding album. It's different. You never hear another Sabbath album that sounds like it. And it really makes sense that it was supposed to be a Tony Iommi solo record, but I'm fine with it being in their catalog. Like it's pretty good, and it's my number 13.
Okay. My number 13, Headless Cross. Here we go again, guys.
plagiarism.
Oh, can't you just write
Bullshit.
your own report?
Bullshit.
Got the Peter Kent chat GBT for this thing.
I do think that I do
Have you
think
seen my list or not?
no, I have not looked at your list. We have not chatted. I do think that it's a heavier album from the Tony Martin era, one of the heavier ones. I like the title track. I like the even the instrumental, The Gates of Hell. When Death Calls is heavy as hell. Brian May does a fantastic guitar solo on that.
Yeah.
Killing the Spirit World, Call of the Wild, All Good, Black Moon, Nightwing, Cloak and Dagger. I do think that maybe Martin was a little heavy-handed on the satanic and themes and the death themes and all that stuff. Well, When Death Calls, hello. It's right there, right? So yeah, that's my number 13. So we'll go back over to Bill for number 12.
Right. I would have been shocked if you didn't mention Brian May on that album.
I would have been too. So that's why I did. So
My number 12, I'm gonna go back for the first time to the original lineup here with Technical Ecstasy. Weakened, but it's still the classic lineup. I actually do like this album quite a bit. I do like the experimental nature of it. I think She's Gone is a pretty cool song. It's a little different for them. which is, again, I like experimental Black Sabbath. I like when they do weird things that aren't just the typical gloom and doom, heavy riff, predictable. That stuff's great, but I want more because I know they can do more. I know what a creative individual, Tony in particular, well, and Bill Ward for that matter, right? Yeah, they have it in them. So, and let's see, yeah, I like Backstreet Kids quite a bit. Um, it's all right. I agree. Bill does a nice vocal on that. That's just pretty cool. It adds more variety rather than constant Ozzy vocals. Um, all moving parts stand still. I don't guess I ever really noticed the story behind that. I like the song musically and it's got a nice vocal hook, but I never knew it was about a cross dresser being elected president, and that it was apparently written because Geezer was concerned about misogynistic nature of the United States back in those days, I guess. So that's right. That was pretty interesting to me. I never realized that before. It's cool to get new perspectives on these things.
Yeah, that's
So,
good.
yeah,
That's
puts a
good.
whole new spin on that song.
That's good. Neil, number 12.
My number 12 is Cross Purposes. Still going back and forth with Tony Martin here, but I kind of agree with Ryan, honestly. He's probably the best of their vocalists. I think some of his records suffered either from production issues or from lineup changes, including himself or him going back and forth with the band. I think that kind of made a difference with the product as a whole. But as a vocalist, he's awesome, and it shows for sure on this record.
Mhm.
Psychophobia, awesome track. I think it's super heavy. I'm also a fan of sludgy, doomy type of Sabbath. So the more they dive into their heavier, nasty type of side, I'm a fan of it. Uh, I was a fan of Eyewitness and Back to Eden. Those are two of my other favorite tracks off of it. But as a whole, I think it's just an awesome album.
Okay. And it's a good album. Yep. Peter, number
Number 12, I went for 1992's Dehumanizer with Dio on the vocals, the mighty Dio. Very heavy album. I'm similar to Ryan here. It's about a 7 out of 10 for me. It's a bit up and down, though. It's very heavy. Computer God always loved. TV Crimes is good. What's it? Master of Insanity is good. Yeah, very heavy. They got in the band Vinny Appice was Tony Geezer and Dio. Yeah, very heavy album, but out of the three with Dio, my least favorite. But I still like it. I still like some of the tracks. Computer God's a particular favorite of mine, though. Yeah. So number 12, The Humanizer.
Okay, Ryan.
So my next one, and it pains me to have this as low as I do, honestly, but for my number 12, I have Never Say Die. I love this album. I think this album is awesome. Um, I think it's an improvement over Technical Ecstasy personally. I think the songs are more memorable. I think that they dive more into the experimentation. It's pretty fascinating what they pulled off. I mean, the title track, really good track, but I think it's one of the worst songs on the album. And that's like, and I really do like it still. Like, it's really catchy. It's got a good chorus to it. It actually, Never Say Die sounds a lot more to me like an Ozzy solo track than it does a Black Sabbath track. Um, and then you hear him do it on Speak of the Devil, that live album he did with the Black Sabbath songs, and it kind of makes sense because they pull it off. It doesn't really sound any different between the two different versions. Johnny Blade's cool. Junior's Eyes, I really love. Good bass riff on there. Hard Road's a good song. Shockwave. Air Dance is cool, kind of like jazz fusion-y, psychedelic type of stuff there. I really like that song. Breakout, the instrumental with the saxophones, that's pretty badass. Um, Swinging the Chains, a good song. It's another Billboard vocal. I don't like it as much as I like It's All Right, but it's pretty cool. And it's interesting that the last song of the Ozzy era doesn't have him. It's like, see ya, Ozzy. Um, like, like I don't know. I dig this album. It's probably like an 8 out of 10 for me, honestly.
Okay. Okay. Here we go again, guys. My number 12 is Dehumanizer.
You piece of shit.
And Peter, you and I really need to have a little talk after this show.
Peter,
Really,
check for cameras in your
Oh.
home.
I know. I'm going to check for cameras everywhere in the
Two in a
house,
row.
for God's sake. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Released in 92. This was the big comeback album, which was touted as a big comeback album with the Dio lineup of Dio, Butler, and no, hold on. Dio, Butler, and Iommi with Appice on drums. It's a heavier album, much heavier than Mob Rules that I heard. It's a good album. I do think that Dio has a more aggressive vocal approach on all the tracks. He's angry on every single bloody track, right? It's almost like he was going to blow a gasket in the studio if he didn't calm down, right? Produced by Reinhold Mack, who worked with Queen quite a bit. Again, there's the Queen connection. My favorite songs on the album, Computer Gods, a fantastic one. TV Crimes, which reminds me a bit of Neon Nights for some reason. Not necessarily a copy of, but I can hear little remnants of it. I don't know why, but it just reminds me of Neon Nights, which I love. Letters from Earth, okay. Master of Insanity, which was I think it was a track that Geezer Butler started to work on for another project he was doing. Time Machine, okay. Sins of the Father, all right. I is a fantastic song. I mean, I think it's one of the better ones on the album. So and I love the artwork. The the demonic, robot devil, whatever, that's sort of sapping the life
computer
energy
guy.
out of a victim, right? And you got the little pup in the corner with the cloak on his head, right? Looking at the camera in terms of the artwork, looking at you, it's hilarious. So yeah, that's my number 12. Back over to Bill, and again, no repeats for God's sake.
Mondo,
No
you're the only one
copying.
doing it.
What was that?
I said you're the only one doing it, Armando.
Oh, too bad. My show. There you go. All right.
My show, his list. Nope.
I'll ignore you, which is easy to do. Go on.
All right. My number 11. Well, looks like I'm gonna start copying off Ryan now because it's Never Say Die. Yeah, I like Never Say Die. Obviously, a little better than Technical Ecstasy. Also, I understand why the band doesn't necessarily like it all that much. All that they were going through at the time, I get it, but I really, again, like the weird experimental nature of it. Some of it might be a bit lazy, but it's a fun album. It's different than some of the things they've done before, and I think my favorite part of the album is that last section. Yeah, Air Dance and Breakout, those two tracks especially, I like a lot. Breakout sounds like, I mean, this is like a King Crimson track, it's wild. It doesn't belong on a Black Sabbath album, and that's why I love it because it's on a Black Sabbath album. It's just, where did this come from? Why don't you guys do more weird stuff like this? But they clearly disagreed, so they didn't do much more like that. But I'm glad they did this because, yeah, this album deserves better than the reputation it has. It gets really slagged quite a bit by Sabbath fans in general. So I think it should be revisited.
Okay.
Mm.
All right. Neil?
My number 11 came down to a lot of hair splitting, to be honest. Because from this point on, it was really hard to figure out where to place everything. And I'm not
Mhm.
even sure how much of a difference it makes as far as the number goes. But number 11, I put Volume 4. I love it. I think part of it may have been the way I was listening to the records when ranking them. Uh, I was listening to everything in order. So by the time I hit volume 4, it already had the first three records. And by the time I get there, I think I hit a bit of a fatigue. And Sabbath Bloody Sabbath is one of my favorites. So that'll obviously kind of get rid of that fatigue because I'm always, yes, I love it. But I still love the record. I think it may have just suffered a little bit from where it was in my listening. Uh, Changes and Snowblind, still some of my favorite tracks by the band. Weird enough, I almost enjoy certain covers of Changes better, despite loving the track still. But big into funky stuff and soul, so makes sense.
Okay.
Outside of that, though, that's it's just an awesome record, like all of them really are from here out. And Black Sabbath's just an awesome band.
Okay. Peter?
Number 11, Never Say Die for me. Yeah, I like the two standouts for me are Never Say Die and A Hard Road. Junior's Eyes is good. Shockwave. Yeah, it's quite interesting sounding album. I like the sound of it. Not my favorite, obviously, but I do like a lot of the tracks. The instrumental's good. Breakout. I like Bill Ward's voice actually, swinging the chain. I like his voice. Yeah, good album, but not obviously just outside the top 10. And Never Say Die. There you go.
Okay. Ryan?
So my 11 is volume 4 as well. Um, I mean, and that sounds stupid in terms of a ranking, but it's just an amazing band. It really is. I mean, like this is a pretty monster album. You know, you got Supernaut on here, which is probably a top 10 Sabbath song for me. You got Snowblind, which is probably a top 30 for me. Like Under the Sun, another classic. Tomorrow's Dream, pretty good. I've never been very big on Wheels of Confusion, so that one definitely knocked this album down a little bit for me. Don't really care too much for like any of the like instrumentals on this, like FX or Laguna Sunrise. They're just filler, honestly. Cornucopia is pretty good, but I don't love. Same with Saint Vitus's Dance. I like Changes, but it's not gonna like hire a Black Sabbath ranking for me. Like it's a really good song, but it's kind of like an anomaly on the album. It's just like that necessary single. Doesn't really fit with the rest of it, but it's still a good song. So I think this album, in terms of like the best of the best, it lacks a little bit in cohesion. I think the production's pretty muddy on here, sometimes for the benefit, sometimes for detriment, in my opinion. But overall, it's a really cool album. Still, it's like an 8 out of 10 still. So it's excellent album. It's my 11 today.
Okay. Just a quick question. Wasn't Volume 4 produced by Patrick Meehan, I think his name is?
I think it may have been the first one produced by Tony, if I remember right.
Black Sabbath and Patrick Meehan.
Meehan. Okay. My number 11 is Paranoid. Oh my God. Now we're going to hear one. Oh my God. It's like, yeah,
Lighten the torches.
exactly. And I think the reason why it's number 11 is because, guys, these songs have never been off of FM radio
Yeah.
since the release, to the point where, I mean, you hear War Pigs on FM radio all the time now, and it's just like you hear it too much, it kind of like deadens it a little bit for you. I mean, you know, the original title was supposed to be War Pigs, but the head of Warner Brothers in the US at the time said, no, Mr. Joe Smith, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. We're not naming it War Pigs because of, you know, all the political situation going on and, you know, and the political unrest in the US at the time. But it is a good album. I mean, you know, lead off track War Pigs. Paranoid, which was the last track written for the album, was supposed to be like a filler track, turned out to be a major hit. Planet Caravan, another good sort of respite from what was going on the previous two tracks. Iron Man, another classic. Electric Funeral, good. Hand of Dune. Rat Salad, the one instrumental on it, and Fairies Wear Boots. I mean, it's like, okay. It is a good album. I just think for me it just suffers from overplay, like in terms of radio. But okay, guys, we've just done number 11. We're going to take a bit of a break, right? So everyone can stretch their legs and go do what they need to do, and we'll come back and we will do numbers 10 to 1. So we will see you in a few secs. Bye for now. Hey everybody, we're back for part 2 of our Black Sabbath album ranking. We did numbers 19 to 11 in part 1. Part 2, we're going to sorry, it's been a long day, guys. We're going to cover numbers 10 to 1. So back over to Bill with his number 10.
Right. It really does pain me to put this one here because I adore this album and have since it came out. Can you tell what it is?
7 star?
Yes, sir.
7 star? Yeah.
Black Sabbath featuring Tony Iommi. And probably the only reasons that I ranked it this low is because it really is a Tony solo album, no matter what that says on the top. But I don't care. It doesn't sound like a Sabbath album, but I love every track on this thing. Glenn Hughes is a god here. This was my introduction to Glenn Hughes, and I've been a fan ever since. Eric Singer, from the moment In for the Kill kicks in, that oh wow, yeah, awesome. I love his drums on this album. So I almost neglect Tony Iommi himself on this album. I enjoy Glenn and Eric so much. And of course, Jeff Nichols. I haven't mentioned him yet, but throughout his long history working with Tony on all these various albums, I think Jeff's done a great job on keyboards, whether he was in the foreground, the background, just pure support, whatever. He's done excellent work. So I do want to give him credit. Really, yeah, this How No Stranger to Love wasn't a hit. I don't know. Maybe it was because of the So-So video. Maybe if they'd done a different sort of video, it might have helped. But the song itself fit right in with that era. I think maybe if it had been marketed as something other than Black Sabbath, it might have worked better. They were trying to force a square peg into a round hole there, trying to make this into something it really wasn't, instead of embracing the market that this album should have been targeted towards. With really 7 Star itself, the title track is the only Black Sabbathy song on here. And I'm a big fan of Heart Like a Wheel, Angry Heart, and In Memory. I always think of those as a trilogy. It's a love story in 3 parts, essentially, a tragic love story. I really like the way they're connected, and that's some of Glenn's most soulful vocals. Yeah, huge fan. Yeah, I can't say enough good things about this. Even though it's at number 10, this is probably the Sabbath album I've played more than any other. So,
Really?
yeah,
Oh.
it's only this low on technicalities. It's still big love, big love.
Okay. Neil.
My number 10, if I can find it, since my list is so messy at this point, my number 10 was Paranoid. And honestly, a lot of that came from piggybacking off of what you said, Armando. I've heard him so damn much. I love all the songs. I still think they're great songs. I think that's part of why I kept it in the top 10. It's an awesome record. I love it front to start. I think War Pigs, Paranoid. Look at my damn notes because I'm such a visual person. Iron Man, Planet Caravan. It's full of nothing but good tracks. The riffs are amazing and memorable. The bass is overly present. I think Geezer helps make it an awesome record. Bill, you know what you get from Bill. He's a very talented drummer. Ozzy's pretty good at following what Tony does on his guitar.
Mhm.
I love him, but he's been blessed with working with amazing musicians his entire career. But it's
Okay,
just
and that's not a slight on Tony Iommi, guys, whatsoever. No, I mean,
no, I love Tony,
oh,
and
I know.
I think that's part of why Ozzy follows his riffs. For instance, is he knows that the riff is going to be so much better than whatever he could have came up with. He's like, damn, that's going to be what people remember, and it's easier just to piggyback off of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I've just heard the tracks too much. I am gonna plug T-Pain's cover of War Pigs if you guys haven't heard it. Super soulful and full of all kinds of organ. It's awesome. Very worth checking out.
Really?
For sure.
Okay. No, I mean, the what I was trying to say too is that for me, paranoid again just suffers from overexposure, I guess, like too much of
Yeah,
everything.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
if they would give half the amount of attention to the other albums in the catalog on classic rock radio, like Seventh Star, like the Eternal Idol, I mean, you get more of a balance in terms of the attention that the catalog
Yeah.
gets, right? So
Right.
well, that's my 2 cents. Okay, 10 cents, but what the hell? Um, all right. Peter. Oh,
Number 10, I went for Technical Ecstasy.
bloody
I've got a
hell.
bit of time
More
for this album.
copying.
Yeah, I've got a bit of time for this album. Backstreet Kids, I don't mind. I'm not real big on it, but I love You Won't Change Me, that song. I love that song. And I love the Billboard vocal, It's All Right. It's a bit Beatlesque in a way, I find. A very good song. I love it. And Ozzy doing singing Gypsy, another really good song. Really love that one. All Moving Parts Stand Still. Don't mind that. I like Rock and Roll Doctor. Some people said they don't like it too much. I've heard, but I like it. She's Gone's a nice one. Dirty Women's was a big concert song. They were still doing in the last few tours, and yeah. So yeah, good album. It's more of I call it more of a hard rock album than a metal album. It's just more hard rock sort of album than a metal. Yeah, number 10, Technical Ecstasy. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ryan.
My number 10 is Heaven and Hell. Um,
That was quick. Okay.
I mean, what to say? I mean, this is a terrific album. We're getting into like 8.5 out of 10 territory here. Um, it's obvious at this point. I like Mob Rules a lot more than I like Heaven and Hell because I haven't said it yet. I think that Mob Rules is the better record of those two early Dio albums. But this one, yeah, like Children of the Sea, which is awesome. Great guitar solo on there from Tony. Probably, I feel like this is the album. It's wild how much Tony eclipsed as a guitarist between the early era with Ozzy and then this album here. Because I feel like as a lead guitarist, Tony was nothing special early on. I'm just gonna be honest. Like his rhythm was really, really great. But by the time he gets to this album, his solos were kicking ass on here. Like I feel like he just like jumped in quality, like from a really good guitarist to a pretty amazing guitarist. And I feel like you also have like Lady Evil, which is pretty good bass riff on there. Die Young, which is cool. The title track, which has some killer riffs on it. I feel like yeah, there's Neon Nights, lots of good stuff on here, but like I said, there's albums that I like better. So that's my number 10 for today.
Okay. It's a good one. I thought it'd be higher though, but okay. Um, my number 10 is Never Say Die. Um, this was just quickly, released in 78. This was at a time when Ozzy was in the band, then he was fired, then he was in the band, then he was fired again. And they hired somebody else to do I forget the vocalist's name, but they did hire someone else to take over for Ozzy
Dave
on
Walker.
vocals. So sorry.
Dave Walker from Savoy Brown and briefly
That's right.
Fleetwood Mac.
That's right. Thanks, Bill. Dave Walker. So
Briefly,
he
briefly Sabbath.
did some work with them, and then apparently when Ozzy came back, he did not want to work on any of the stuff that Dave Walker worked on. Like, he thought it was like, sacrilege that he would do that, whatever. Like, for as different as as Ozzy and Dio were, they were quite the same in other areas in terms of their stubbornness. Okay. I'm just going to put it out there. But yeah, you have the title track. Johnny Blade is a good one. Junior's Eyes is another one. It is a good album. I do like Air Dance, and I like Breakout, the instrumental. Breakout did have lyrics to it, apparently. But again, Ozzy refused to sing the lyrics. So because Dave Walker worked on the song. I'm sorry, they're going to carry on without you, Ozzy. You're not there. Move on. You know what I mean? And I do like the fact that Bill Ward is doing the vocals on "Swinging the Chain" because again, Ozzy wouldn't sing it. All right. But I think he does a good job on it. So yeah, that's my number 10. Never Say Die. So over to Bill. Number 9.
They could have just not hired Dio and pulled the Genesis and just let Bill take over the lead vocals. Been a trio. What do you think?
I would
Would
have.
have been 13
Yeah,
off.
why not? Why not? I mean, apparently he didn't want to sing on some, like he was afraid to sing on the song that Gets All Right, but they encouraged him apparently to sing on it. That they liked his vocal. So
Yeah, he does well. I like Bill.
Would have been the death of that band.
okay.
All right. We're going to go for a totally different vocalist now. My number 9, again, I'm surprised it's as low as it is, but it's not a slide on the album at all. This is one of the greatest album covers of all time also, and many people absolutely hate it. But I think this is
I know where you're
cheesy
going.
Black Sabbath perfection. This is a work of art. It fits Black Sabbath to a T. Just enough cheesy, cartoonish horror to it's perfect. But man, Ian Gillan on this, I think this is his best vocal performance in his career with any band. And I'll die on that hill. Disturbing the Priest is just intense. It's like he's just going to he took what Tony Martin did later with that whole thing and said,
His range is outrageous.
oh yeah. I
I
mean,
would agree.
yes, it's over the top. I mean, the song is called "Disturbing the Priest." Come on, how cheesy is that? But it's great. And Born Again, that vocal is gorgeous. It's soulful and powerful. That wow, Zero, the hero, the way it comes in from the dark,
Heavy as
it's
hell.
so heavy. Wow, yeah, the sound is muddy. But that's the way this album sounds. It's too late to do anything about it now. I believe weren't the masters lost for this album?
Apparently they've been found, and they're gonna release it again.
All right. I'm curious to see if they'll actually do anything. Curious to see all the online arguments that are going to take place over whether they should leave muddy or clean it up.
Yeah.
It'll be Vapor Trails Part 2. All right. Yeah, that's a great album. I love it. I wish Ian Gillan would have stayed around long enough, even though I like Perfect Strangers, but I wish he would have done another Sabbath album before he rejoined Deep Purple. Too late now. His voice is shot. He's terrible.
Okay.
Amen.
Yeah. No, it's a good album. Neil? Mm,
Let's see here. If I can find the number again. My number 9 is Heaven and Hell. It first Dio appearance, so that speaks a lot for what I think about Dio. I think he's an amazing vocalist. He's well respected for a reason because he just has range and power beyond most people. That man could belt it like it was nobody's business, and it shows on all the records. He I think going from a vocalist like Ozzy to a vocalist like Dio uh, was a major step up. Like I've said earlier, I love Ozzy. I still think that he's had the benefit of working with amazing musicians his entire career and had an awesome cast around him. Otherwise, he probably wouldn't be as known. Yeah, Dio is just pure talent. I love
Yeah.
this record. Uh, and kind of like Ryan said, I agree on some of the solos. I like a little more of the bluesy side of Tony's earlier solos, but I think this fits what Black Sabbath is a little bit better. It transitions from that him growing up playing more bluesy type of songs into, all right, man, I created a genre. I made metal. This is what this shit's gonna sound like. And it really shows with this record. And it's just an awesome introduction to this era of the band.
I would agree. I would agree 100%. Peter, you're number 9.
My number 9 is Born Again. There you go. Born Again. Yeah. Yeah, very heavy album. I love Gillan's vocals, even when he was in Deep Purple. Trashed is a great opener, great rocking song. You got the instrumental Stonehenge. Disturbing the Priest is awesome. Heavy track. My favorite is probably Zero the Hero. I love Zero the Hero. The sound of it. Yeah, just the heavy track. Like Bill was saying, Born Again's beautiful. Beautiful track. Love that. Let's see. Digital Beach, good rocker. Keep It Warm's a good ending. Yeah, but did a good job. I'll be interested to hear the new version when it comes out of this, which they're gonna do. Yeah. So
Yeah.
number 9, Born Again.
Cool. Cool. Yeah, they are working on
Yeah.
a remix. The master tapes were apparently lost, but Tony Iommi said they've been found and they're going to be working on a remix of it. So,
Mm.
Ryan, you're number 9.
Also Born Again. It's 3 nines for Born Again so far.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Absolute class.
All right, go ahead.
I've gone back and forth on this album many times over the years. There's been times where I've loved this album. There's been times where I've hated this album. At this point in my life, I love this album. I mean, you got Disturbing the Priest, heavy, demonic, crazy, kind of funny once you actually know what it's actually about. Um, you've got some of Ian's most wild screams. This has one of the greatest like Sabbath deep tracks, Hotline, on it. That's such an awesome song. That's some heavy shit there. Um, the title track, Born Again, is another like spine tingling kind of song with those yelling screams on it. Cool keyboards on there too. Good instrumentals as well on this album. Zero the Hero. I have mixed feelings about Digital Bitch. I'm not real huge on that song, to be honest. Trashed, I like. I didn't used to like it very much, but I like it now. For the most part, this is like an 8.5 kind of album for me. It's like really, really, really solid stuff. The mix is muddy for sure, but it's not that bad. Like I've heard worse. I mean, it's something you kind of have to get used to, and depending on what version you listen to, it's sometimes better. I think the 2004 remaster is pretty good. It's like the original vinyl that really sounds like shit. That's the one that's pretty rough. Um, but yeah, otherwise, I'd say it's a fantastic album. It's a lot of fun. Ian does a great job on it. I think it's the last time. Is it the last? It's the last time Bill's in the band, right?
On a
Yeah.
studio album. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, on the studio album. So
Because apparently they got Beth Bevan to come in on the tour
yeah,
for it.
so it's interesting for that too. And I'm kind of glad that it's the only Ian Black Sabbath album because, in my opinion, he just barely works for the band. Like, I like him in the band, but it's like so close to not working that I feel like if they would have done more, the steam might have ran out. Um, I feel like it's a cool kind of like one time type of thing. He went back to Deep Purple. They got some other vocalists for Black Sabbath. It works out, but it's an awesome album.
Okay. Okay. My number 9 is Technical Ecstasy. Um, Good album. This is one of the Bill and I talked about this a few days ago about last week, I think it was, about albums where one song for you kind of makes the album. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And for me, this is that kind of an album. With I'm All Right. It's All Right. Sorry, with Bill Ward. This was at a time when between this album and Never Say Die, according to Ozzy, um, Iommi was saying, we need to sound more like Foreigner. We need to sound more like Queen. We need to be more like, we need to get the hits. We need to, go in that direction. And Ozzy's like, you're fucking crazy. Like, what are you talking about? I mean, this is what we do. This is Black Sabbath. This isn't Foreigner. This isn't Queen. But so, I mean, you know, it's a good album. I mean, Backstreet Kids is good. You Won't Change Me is really good. It's All Right for Me makes the album. It makes it what it is. It's a good sort of surprise from Ozzy's vocals. Gypsy is good. All moving,
Mm.
all moving parts. Rock and Roll Doctor. Yeah, She's Gone is good. That's a good one. And who doesn't like a song like Dirty Women? That's called Dirty Women, okay? For those of you out there that do like Dirty Women, okay. But that's my number 9. Back over to Bill.
All right. I'm going with number 8 is Volume 4. This is one of those albums with very high highs and some, well, that's pretty good. There are no bad songs on here, but yeah, there's definite tears. I really like the opening of Wheels of Confusion more than I like the whole song. I think it's good, but that opening is down and dirty. And I think it really matches up well with the closing track, Under the Sun, which has that same kind of just grimy, evil sounding riff. And yeah, wow. Grunge before grunge existed, basically. Changes I've always loved. I know a lot of Sabbath fans, a lot of metal fans like to hate on that song. Say, "Oh, that's the weakest song, the only song I don't like of that album." Nonsense. It's a gorgeous song,
Mhm.
and especially when you consider that apparently Tony wrote and played it on the piano. Uh, the guy's really impressive when you stop and think about all the things he did, especially back in the '70s, where he would just kind of teach himself the basics of a new instrument just so they could do something with it.
Yeah.
So whether he mastered any of them or not is open to question, but it's just cool that he was able to do that. I have a lot of respect for him as an artist. Um, let's see. I actually like Laguna Sunrise quite a bit. That's one of my favorite Sabbath instrumentals. I think it works well in there. But yeah, I think Ryan had mentioned earlier something like Cornucopia. It's that's one of those. It's not bad, but it doesn't match the highs for me. There's a few like that. So yeah, very strong album, but it's kind of carried by my favorites, and the other songs just kind of ride the coattails.
Okay. All right. Neil, number 8.
My number 8's Born Again. And I'll try not to drone on about it too much since we just had it pop up a good 3 times. But
It's fine. It's fine.
yeah, there's not much I can add to it, to be honest. It's a kick-ass record. Ian Gillan, some of the highs he hits, he has to push that so far up into his sinuses to be able to get that screechiness and for that not to tear his throat apart. His vocal performance in general is awesome. I like the record. I think it's great overall. I know Disturbing the Priest, Trash, Zero the Hero, some of my favorites by them, but his vocals as a whole is really what makes it, because the high notes in particular are some of the screechiest highs that I've heard, and I love it.
Okay. Okay, Peter.
Number 8, I went for the debut album, Black Sabbath. I really liked the album, but I just like other albums better. I like the opening song, the title track. Great, good vocals from Ozzy. Very atmospheric with the rain coming down at the start of the track. My favorite song is probably NIB. I like NIB. Behind the Wall of Sleep, isn't it? And it's got Sleeping Village and Warning's Good to finish off. But really good album. Just I like others better, but I love the cover. Love the cover artwork. Very creepy. Yeah, so I'll go for that for number 8. Yeah, first album.
As a kid, that cover scared the shit out of me.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's very
yeah,
creepy, yeah.
yeah. Okay, Ryan, number 8.
Eternal Idol. I mean, I feel like, this album has a few of my favorite Sabbath songs. Shining is definitely like up there. That's one of the best Sabbath openers. I remember I was talking to a friend about this. I'm like, this has to be a top 5 Sabbath opener of all time. Like it has to be. I mean, it's just such a killer track. Good riff, great vocals by Tony Martin, etc. The ending track to Eternal Idol, that's one of the most chilling vocal performances ever. I mean, Tony Martin just kills it on that song. And the riff is heavy as hell, too. Great drumming from Eric Singer. You got Nightmare on here, Ancient Warrior, Glory Ride, Born to Lose. There's just a lot of really good heavy stuff. It's a great sounding album. I feel like it's probably the best sounding 80s Sabbath album, in my opinion. That or Mob Rules, production wise, I would say are probably the two best sounding ones. Um, I just feel like it's very clear, good instrumentation once again. I've heard the version. Oh, also good keyboards on this one too. But I would say that I've heard the Ray Gillen version of the album, and I'm glad it's the Tony Martin version that came out. It's definitely the superior version. I mean, Ray was a really talented vocalist, but I'm glad this is the way it came out. I'm glad it was a start for um, Tony Martin with the band because it's very close to being the strongest of his albums. But we'll talk about my favorite of his albums in a little bit.
Okay,
So that's my 8, Eternal Idol.
cool. My number 8 is Born Again. I agree with Neil that Ian Gillan's vocals on this album are just massive, and that the notes he hits, the heights he hits. I don't know what part of his anatomy he had to grab in order to get those notes, but I mean, like, holy Jesus. Okay, it's heavy with songs like Trashed, the Stonehenge instrumental, Disturbing the Priest. I mean, come on, that title alone, you know what you're in for. Okay, I mean, it is really good. It's heavy. The Dark is fantastic, and as it segues into Zero the Hero, which was the lead off single in North America for the album. Just heavy is all get out. Digital Bitch. I love that track, and there's rumors it was dedicated to a certain person's wife, member's wife. We won't
Not
go.
Sharon.
No, there we go. Right. Didn't hear it from me, but that's all conjecture, right?
Hear rumor. Don't sue, Sharon. Don't sue.
There you go. There you go. The title track, Hotline is a good one too. Keep It Warm. Yeah, okay. It is a good album. It's a heavy album, murky sound or not, murky, muddy production or not. It is a good album. It's a heavy album. I think it deserves a lot more praise than what it gets. I think that, I mean, like for example, the cover itself, that's iconic. I mean, Ian Gillan said that when he saw the cover, he threw up. Like he was so sick over the cover that he actually was sick, physically sick. And just a little backstory. Tony Iommi didn't know that they were going to do that cover. He didn't give the okay for that cover to come out. So, but it was done, it was ready to go, so they had to go with it. And yeah, that's my number 8. And I mean, hopefully, just quickly, hopefully if they do a proper remix of it, clean it up, whatever they're gonna do, it's gonna hopefully it'll sound fantastic. So that's my number 8. Back over to Bill.
We apparently all give it enough love because we all put it in the top 10. So
Yeah.
Exactly.
which is not bad at all in a catalog like this. So my number 7 is Sabbath Bloody Sabbath. The title track, if we were talking about just single songs, the title track might be enough to pull it all the way almost to the top. But I like the whole album, but my God, that title track, Sabbath Bloody Sabbath.
Awesome.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, amazing song.
And it's so great that it overpowers the rest of the album, even though I really do like the whole album. I again like the experimental nature of this album. I know a lot of progressive rock fans really pick this as their favorite. And being one myself, I get that. I understand why. I think one of the coolest things about this album to me is the song Who Are You? And just the idea that Ozzy wrote this thing and apparently learned how to play the synth that he bought and played it himself. I mean, it sounds pretty cool. I mean, it's hard to imagine Ozzy doing something like that.
Yeah.
Especially in the state that they were all in back in those days. But I think it turned out well. It's a really cool song. Sounds quite different from everything else. So, yeah, and the cover, I wish I had. I used to have the vinyl copy of this that I no longer do. That cover is front and back amazing. The detail on it. I used to have a shirt too with that cover on. Sadly, it's gone also. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, the artist needed to be paid extra for that.
Hell yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. No, that's a good choice. That's a good choice. Okay, Neil.
My number 7 is Sabotage. Awesome record. I think it was a really good follow-up to Sabbath Bloody Sabbath. It kind of kept the momentum going that they built with that record. Symptom of the Universe, Hole in the Sky. It has awesome tracks on it. The tracks are all super long, or at least the longer ones are. They dip more into that longer territory as opposed to just shorter tracks. And it's just a killer record. Super heavy, super hard hitting. The guitar work is awesome. I think it kind of shows what direction that they were going to be taking once Dio joined the band. But I think stuff like Technical Ecstasy kind of took like a bit of a turn for those two records. And then they kind of got back on that course that this record was setting.
Okay.
But it's an awesome record. I think that's why all these are top 10. Like Ryan's been saying, they're at least a 8 out of 5 because Black Sabbath's just a kick-ass band.
Okay. Cool. Okay, Peter, you're number 7.
Number 7, I went for Volume 4. Very not a great sounding album, very murky, muddy, but it's a bit, I guess it's part of its charm in a way too. Starts off well with Wheels of Confusion. I really like Tomorrow's Dream. I don't mind changes. A lot of people crap on that song. I don't mind it. I think his vocal's pretty good on it. The instrumental or experimental parts, I'm not that big on. I don't mind Laguna Sunrise though. My 2 favorite songs are Supernaut and Snowblind, easily my 2 favorites. And Snowblind could be my favorite song ever by them. It's that or another song. I love Snowblind, always loved it. St. Vitus Dance is okay. Under the Sun, very heavy. Yeah, but really good album, but just carried by 2 or 3 songs, I think. That's the thing. and it's a little muddy as well, but good album though. Number 7, yeah, volume 4.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, Ryan, you're number 7.
Cross purposes.
Whose purposes?
This album, I feel like, is in a lot of ways probably the most underrated Black Sabbath album. Because I feel like by the time they had done this, it had been probably since maybe I feel like this album's heavier than Born Again, honestly. Um, I feel like this is probably like the heaviest thing they had done since like the Ozzy era, honestly. Um, and it also is just really, really well produced. It's got good songs on it. It's got like Eyewitness, Psychophobia, Virtual Death, Immaculate Deception, Hand That Rocks the Cradle, Evil Eye, all kinds of good stuff on here. I really don't think there's any bad songs on this album. Like,
Mm.
just killer riffs all the way through it. Tony sings his ass off on this album. Like, he really does. And I just feel like it just doesn't get enough credit. Like, I feel like while there a lot of the other albums like that we've talked about so far, I have things I could like pick apart about them and things like that. There's not really anything about this one that I would pick apart about it. It's just a really awesome album. I think it's dark. It's got a cool album cover. It even features, um, I think Eddie Van Halen helped write one of the songs on it.
Evil Eye.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, Evil Eye. You definitely hear a little bit of the '90s stuff on here. I think there's one song. I think it's maybe I want to say Psychophobia. There's some harmonies in the vocals that kind of have like an Alice in Chains type of feel to them. I think it's that one, but I could be mixing up titles. But regardless, that was pretty cool the way they did that. They definitely kind of like modernized their sound a little bit, but I just feel like they kept the core of Black Sabbath so much more than any album that had come out since the '70s. I feel like it's probably the most Black Sabbath feeling one.
Okay, cool. Cool. Yeah, Eddie Van Halen was prohibited from being given credit on the album due to his contract with Warner Brothers. They didn't like the artists being credited on other albums for other labels. Prince had the same issue with his contract with Warner's, which pissed him off big time. My number 7 is the debut. As I said before, when I saw that cover, I was like, what, 10 years old, 11 years old? Scared the shit out of me. Like, who is this black figure in the green face? I'm like, but you know what? Heavy album. It, released on Friday the 13th, 1970 in the UK and June 1st in the US. Heavy as all get out, recorded in something like 30 hours. All this stuff was done in 1 or 2 takes with all of them in the studio. I mean, the title track, NIB, fantastic. The Wizard, Behind the Wall of Sleep, Evil Woman, Sleeping Village, Warning, heavy, heavy stuff. And I mean, as I was saying before, they don't play this album enough on FM rock radio. They should mix it up a little more. But yeah, that's my number 7 debut. Over to Bill.
All right, we're gonna move a little forward from there to the Dio era again, and I'm gonna go number 6 is Mob Rules. This is a great album. I don't think there's a weak track on it. I really vacillated between this and its predecessor. They're very close to me. But there's nothing that this album does that puts it behind Heaven and Hell for me. I'll get to that when I get to Heaven and Hell. But yeah, this album is great. It's there's no skippers, not even close. Sign of the Southern Cross. My God, that's awesome. Wow. Yeah, it's yeah, falling off the edge of the world. Wow. The sound is quite a bit different than the sound on Heaven and Hell. The production's quite a bit different. This album sounds darker and heavier to me. I actually think the production is stronger on this album, but
Mhm.
but there's always a but.
But
Yeah. And the cover again, this is one of their best. This is a top 5 cover. That image on the front with those creepy figures and blood splattered background is just horrifying. Perfect for Sabbath.
yeah, and when you that one lyric, when you listen to Fools, the Mob Rules, like
Yes, and the title track also, I having seen the movie Heavy Metal countless times, even though it's a different version in the movie, that the version that was used on the soundtrack, I still can't help but picture the scenes from the movie
yeah,
whenever the
yeah,
song
definitely,
plays.
definitely. Yeah. No, it's good. That's a good choice. Okay, Neil, number 6.
My number 6 is Sabbath Bloody Sabbath. It, it's just, what can you say about this record that hasn't been said? It's phenomenal. Especially that title track. I think
Yeah.
really the record as a whole is awesome, but that title track just, it's arguably Sabbath's best work for a reason. That riff is just amazing. It's memorable. The song transitions perfectly throughout the entire thing. It's just basically the perfect Black Sabbath song to me. The rest of the record, while I think doesn't quite meet that high, doesn't necessarily disappoint me as well. Like Spiral Architect is another one of my favorites by them. Killing Yourself to Live is an awesome track. The front to back, it's an awesome record, but I could go on and on about how just gnarly and awesome that first track in particular is. That riff has led to so much of the shit that I listen to. It's just awesome.
Cool. Cool. No, that's a good one. Okay. Peter, number 6.
Number 6, same album, Sabbath Bloody Sabbath. Yeah.
You shouldn't
The
copy me
song
this
Sabbath.
time.
I'm guilty now. The song, actual song, is probably their greatest song. That or Snowblind for me. I love, and there's another song as well, like I'll mention later. But yeah, but it's a really strong album. Ozzy sounds pretty good on it. It's a bit more sophisticated than the earlier. They're a bit more sophisticated, I find, from after Volume 4. But the band's in its prime here, pretty good. But I just find the rest of the tracks, some of them pale in comparison to the title track, in a way, sort of. But I do like Spiral Architect. That's a good song, and National Acrobat too is very good. Who are you? I don't mind that either. Yeah, a really good album. But yeah, the first, you can't help but thinking about the first track when you hear the album, sort of thing. Yeah, you feel like playing that again. Yeah, sort of thing. Yeah, but number 6, yeah, Sabbath Bloody, a real good album. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, Ryan, you're number 6.
Same Bloody Sabbath. I mean, as everybody mentioned, it's a juggernaut of an album. My favorite track's actually National Acrobat, though. I like it a bit more than I like Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, to be honest, but they're both terrific songs. I feel like it's one of the greatest 1-2 punches in like metal history. Just those 2 songs back to back. It's just like holy shit. But you also have like Killing Yourself to Live. Who Are You's pretty good. It's not my favorite, but I like it. Spiral Architect's a classic. Sabracadabra is awesome. I love how it like switches into those like piano breakdowns and stuff. It's so wild. Fluff's probably one of the better instrumentals by the band. Looking for Today is pretty good too. I mean, we're still for me, probably in like the 8.5 area. I'm not quite at the 9 yet, but getting there. This is terrific album, super cool album cover. Definitely some of the highlights of the band's career on here.
Mhm. Okay, cool. My number 6 is Master of Reality. For me, it's a fantastic album, with Sweet Leaf and After Forever, the instrumental embryo, like, was it like 59 seconds or something, 30 seconds, like not very long at all. Children of the Grave, Orchids, another one, fantastic. Lord of This World and, Solitude and Into the Void. I mean, almost like a large, a large percentage of these heavy metal groups always have one song in their catalog that's called Into the Void. You know what I mean? It's almost like a standard, like you've got to have that. It's like a staple, right? If you don't have that, you're not heavy metal, right? It's like bullshit. But anyways, it is a good album. Yeah, it's my number 6. Bill, you're number 5.
All right,
Closing
my
in,
number
folks.
5. What's that?
We're closing in. We're getting there. Number
We
5.
are. All right. It was the first, and it will be my last of the Dio era for this ranking. Heaven and Hell. If not for Lady Evil and Walk Away, this would be a 10 out of 10 for me. This would rank higher. Those two songs drag it down. I mean, I like them well enough, but Lady Evil is cheesy even for Dio. I mean,
That's what you do.
There's a place just south of Witch's Valley. Come on, Ronnie. You can do better. You did on the same album. On the surrounding songs, Children of the Sea and Heaven and Hell surround this thing.
Yeah.
Wow.
I got it.
But those songs are so strong that they're good enough to get it at number 5 in the catalog. They are amazing. Children of the Sea, just thinking about it gives me chills. And Die Young, just that almost whispered vocal. Oh man, wow, love it. And Lonely is the Word. My old friend Jeff out in Colorado that introduced me to this album back in the 80s. He was a big fan of Lonely is the Word. That was his favorite track on that. He was a guitar player, so at least he thought he was. So I took him seriously. Yeah, I think Lonely is the Word. Kind of gets ignored in favor of the other epic side ender, Heaven and Hell, but it's awesome. And yeah, the cover's fun. They beat Van Halen in their 1984 to the punch there.
Yeah.
With the Angels doing non-angelic things.
Well, who
Yeah,
doesn't love
and the
smoking
sound.
angels?
Do what?
Who doesn't love smoking angels? Is it?
The sound, I think the sound could be beefed up. I wish this had the tougher sound that Mob Rules does, because it, at least on my cassette and on my CD, both, they sound very thin. I don't think I've ever actually had a vinyl copy. One of these days, I'm gonna get around to finding one and seeing if that makes a difference. But
Yeah.
That's great either way. So yeah.
Okay. All right. Neil, you're number 5.
My number 5 is actually Seventh Star.
Nice.
It worked its way up the list. It was a real breath of fresh air. Especially, I think, listening to the catalog as close in proximity as I did, having that bit of something different made a big difference for me. I think it's a record that gets ignored by a lot of people when they become Sabbath fans, because when you get into Sabbath, you're into just, the hard rock Sabbath. You want the heavy metal creation of Sabbath. I think after a while, though, you can kind of also branch out a little bit with that and dip into their not so signature songs. And I think this record is a very good showcase of that. A lot of that has to do with the fact that it was supposed to be a solo record, but yeah, there's not really much you can say bad about it. Like you had mentioned, the last 3 tracks, I think, is an awesome ending to the record. They blend together super well and seamlessly. I got In for the Kill. The drums are fucking awesome. It just builds up to a perfect opening.
Mhm.
No Stranger to Love was killer. The title track is cool. Uh, yeah, it's just a good record, honestly. And I think Glenn Hughes did a great job with his vocals on there.
Mhm. Cool. Okay. Peter?
Number 5 for me is Paranoid. Probably has dropped down a bit because of overexposure
Mhm.
over the years, but it's got those 3 classics: War Pigs, Paranoid, and Iron Man. I still love Iron Man though. I still play it from time to time. Planet Caravan's a nice change, mellower, very
Mhm.
spacey sounding.
Yeah.
It's a nice track. I like Electric Funeral a lot. Hand of Doom's a bit longer, but very dynamic sounding song. Good instrumental, Rat Salad. Fairies Red Boots would probably be my favorite these days. Always like Fairies Red Boots, something about it. And yeah, but it would have been higher on other occasions, but it's still an excellent album. Number 5, yeah, Paranoid. Yeah.
Cool. Cool. I never understood the cover of that. They could have
No,
work
no.
on that, but
Right.
It
um
does match with the War Pigs title better if they had
Yeah.
stuck
Yeah.
with that.
it does. Yeah, it
Fair.
does. Okay, Ryan, you're number 5.
Sabotage. Um, I feel like Sabotage is definitely like one of the more progressive albums for the band too. It's like Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath, and or wait, yeah, Sabbath, Sabotage is my number 5. Yeah, so Hole in the Sky, absolutely classic opener. I know that it's like such a loud opener, like going into that damn.
Mhm.
It's relentless. Great vocals by Ozzy on that song. I feel like this album here is the ultimate Ozzy vocal album in Sabbath. Like he's just screaming his ass off on
A
this
lot of
album.
intensity in his vocal, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like this is the cleanest he ever sounded, but also like the angriest, most scary he ever sounded. Because you got Symptom of the Universe, where he's just like up in that higher range, shrilling scream, heavy riff on there, down like the end. That's like basically the introduction of thrash metal, basically that riff, and then
Yeah.
Bill Ward coming on the drums. It's all cymbals. It's all cymbals. He just creates like a complete atmosphere with those cymbals, and he's just beating the shit out of those drums. You got Megalomania, which is a cool longer track. A lot of different like switch ups of sound on that one. That's one of the most drugged out Sabbath songs you'll ever hear. It's real heavy at times, and he's just like, "Suck me," like
Yeah, 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 yeah.
it's wild. You got Thrill of It All, which is one of the most killer Sabbath riffs. Super Czar, which is interesting. It's not one of my favorites, but it's a cool experimental track. Am I Going Insane? That's a song that took time for me to like, but I like it now. And then the Writ, holy shit, like
Mm.
that's one of Ozzy's best vocal performances of all time. It's super heavy, the song as a whole, but I feel like that's like one of his scariest performances of all time. It's just a awesome, heavy, weird, coked out album
Mhm.
that definitely deserves to be in the top 5.
Cool. Cool. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one.
Thank you.
You're welcome. My number 5 is volume 4. Um, everyone talks about the track changes, that it's like one of the weaker tracks on the album. Oh, I think we lost Bill
Ah,
and Neil. I think they'll come back. They'll come back.
Yeah.
Um, we have to continue. I like the album as a whole. Wheels of Confusion's a good track. Tomorrow's Dream, again, changes. I like FX as like an experimental piece. I mean, uh, that's what Iommi would do in the earlier albums. He'd do these little either acoustic little bits or just these little passages that would sort of link tracks together. Fantastic, Super Not, another fantastic one. Snowblind, another good track. You can just imagine what that, what that subject matter was about. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Okay. Cornucopia is another good one. Laguna Sunrise is an instrumental I like quite a bit. And Sim Vitus Dance is another one. And Under the Sun. Good album, solid album overall. This is where they started to also experiment a little bit with Mellotron and keyboards and stuff, right? So, yeah, that's my number 5. And we're back, guys. Sorry about that. Technical difficulties. But we're back and we're going to complete this. Come hell or high water. We come this far, we're going to go all the way. Right? Sounds like a bad first date. But anyways. All right. Number 4. We're going to go to Bill for number 4.
As you can see from the altered screen, the technical difficulties were on my end. Sorry, folks. Number 4 is Master of Reality. The birth of doom metal. This album doesn't have a great deal of variety outside of an odd track like Solitude, say, but it doesn't need it. It's perfect for what it is. It makes a statement throughout the entire album. It created an entire genre, essentially. So, and it's short. I like the fact that this is such a concise album, 34 minutes, basically. That's it. You're in and you're out. Yeah. It has a lot of personality packed in 34 minutes. Love it.
Okay. All right. Neil, as we pass the camera over, how's it going?
With our technical difficulties.
There we go.
There we go. My number 4 is actually the same. I love it for basically the same reasons. It's nasty, it's dirty, it's the birth of like some of the stuff I love the most, because the sludgier and nastier the metal, the more I tend to be into it. So this record is just, it encapsulates a bunch of what would come later, and I think it's just killer start to finish. Children of the Grave, Sweet Leaf, War to This World, there's some highlight tracks for me, but just in general, the sound of it and even the shortness of it, I think, helps, because there's a lot of modern metal records that have taken influence from this that are super short and sludgy, and they still sound nasty as hell, and I love it. So,
Okay.
yeah, this was awesome record.
Yeah. No, it's good. It's a good one. Okay, Peter, you're number 4.
Number 4, Heaven and Hell. Dio, what a great singer. He's in great form on this. Really good album, though. A Neon Nights, what a classic start off. Children of Sea, I love. Lady Evil, like Bill. It's a little bit down for me, but still like it. Heaven and Hell's my favorite, the standout for me, the title track.
Mm-hmm.
I love Wishing Well. Die Young's good. Walk Away, it's not too bad. I like Lonely Is the Word. So pretty good album all the way through. Definitely, no doubt, been in the top 5 for me. Yeah, and Dio, amazing singer. So number 4, Heaven and Hell.
Perfect. Good choice. Okay, Ryan, you're number 4.
Mob Rules. I feel like this album improved upon Heaven and Hell. Better production, better songs overall, in my opinion. Heavier. I feel like you have like Sign of the Southern Cross, which I think is an absolute classic. You got Turn Up the Night, Mob Rules. Country Girl kind of sucks in my opinion, but it's okay though, I guess. Slipping Away is really good. Voodoo's awesome. That's actually a really underrated one.
I
Falling
agree.
Off the Edge of the World's pretty killer. Some great riffs on there. And over, I love that song. I feel like that's kind of the slept on track of the album. I think it's got a great melodic riff to it. One of Ronnie's best vocal performances of all time. It's an absolutely heartbreaking song. Um, I think this album has a much cooler album cover than Heaven and Hell. It's got better production. It's my number 4 for today. It's my favorite non-Aussie Black Sabbath album.
Perfect. Perfect. Um, all right. We must carry on, ladies and gentlemen. My number 4 is Sabbath Bloody Sabbath. I feel again, released in 73, I feel on this album, they were continuing their experimentation using more piano, synths, mellotron. I mean, hell, Rick Wakeman was in the studio next door working with Yes. They were doing Tales of Topographic Oceans. So he contributed to some instrumentation on Sabra Cadabra. The entire album is fantastic. I think they were stretching out more on this album. Title track is amazing. National Acrobat, it's fantastic. I like Fluff. I think Fluff is a beautiful melodic instrumental, combining, acoustic and electric guitar. Just a lot of point and counterpoint on that track alone. Just amazing. Killing Yourself to Live is good. Who Are You? Uh, um, Spiral Architect. I mean, like, come on. It's just it is a fantastic album. It's this album that Ozzy would later say that they should have broke up after this album, or that he should no, sorry, I'll take that back. He should have left after this album because when you looks back on it, because he says at this point he was whacked out on drugs and it was just too much for him to take. And either, he should have just walked away then. But it's a great album. The cover is, killer in terms of cover art. So yeah, it's my number 4. So final 3, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go. Back to Bill.
I'm going back to the beginning. Number 3 is the debut Black Sabbath. And I want to be very clear that I'm talking about the North American version that has Wicked World instead
Oh,
of Evil Woman. I think this is the superior version.
Yep.
Uh,
Okay.
I like the raw sound of this album, the dirty, bluesy, experimental, wild, anything goes. I love the sound of Geezer's bass on this. There's points he just almost plays lead bass here, which is unusual for him.
It's
Uh,
prominent in the mix. Yeah.
yeah, and Ozzy has some of his most interesting vocals here. He has some very deep vocals, which is unusual for him. His voice does things he wouldn't do so much later on. That kind of makes it stand out. I don't think there's a weak track on this album at all. It's I just never get tired of it. I think I'm burnt out and know I play it and I have to listen to it all. Masterpiece. It truly created a genre. Again, another one. Yeah.
Okay. Over to Neil. Your number 3.
My number 3 is also going to be the debut. For a lot of the same reasons, honestly. Especially that opening track. You get the rain starting up and you hear like the thunder crack behind it, and you just know something's about to happen. And then you just hear that brrr, everything kicks in just right, and it builds all the momentum that it needs. And it's a start of a great record. And there's only a handful of records I can think of that I can really throw on front to back whenever and enjoy it. Because most of them, I can throw them on front to back, but say I do it 2-3 times in a week, I'm gonna get tired by the third listen. That one is one that I can just consistently throw on and love it every single time because it's just so well done for what it is.
it captured exactly what they wanted it to capture, and it was the birth of heavy metal. It's awesome record front to back. There's nothing negative I can say about it. It's just amazing.
Okay, a little footnote. When I got the reissue on vinyl a few years ago, and when I first heard it, it was thunderstorming outside, right? Like it was like, dark clouds and this thing kicks on. I'm like, what the fuck have I gotten into here? Like, what have I done? But yeah,
Look
no,
out the window and she's just standing there.
yeah, I'm like, way to go, Neil. Thanks a lot. Okay. Like, okay. Moving on. Okay.
Giving Armando his own Blair Witch project here.
There you go. There you go. Bloody hell. Thanks, Neil. Over to Peter. Number three.
Number three, is it? Number three, Mob Rules. Number three, Mob Rules. Yeah, love this. Dio, great. What a voice. Turn Up the Night, a great rocker. Voodoo's a great rocker. But for me, the highlight is the Sign of the Southern Cross.
Yeah.
Just killer. Just a wonderful song and vocal. And the band's in great form. The instrumental's okay. I love the Mob Rules, the song. Dio rips it out. Really good. His vocals are so good on here. Country Girl, don't mind it. Not my favorite, but it's okay. I like Slipping Away, and I really like Falling Off the Edge of the World. And Over and Over is a pretty good one too. Very strong album. Yeah, I prefer it to Heaven and Hell. It's got a bit more grunt to it than Heaven and Hell has. So that's why I prefer it. Yeah, but the Sign of the Southern Cross, it's fantastic. Yeah. So Mob Rules number three. Yeah, great album. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Good choice. Okay, Ryan, number three.
Paranoid. I mean, yes, these songs have been played on the radio a lot, but I feel like for me, stuff like Iron Man and War Pigs never gets old for me. I mean, I still love Paranoid too. It was never my favorite Black Sabbath song, to be completely honest, but it's really good though, so I still enjoy it. But for me, it's the deep tracks on this album that really stand out. Because I mean, you got Electric Funeral, which is an absolute classic. That's one of Tony's best riffs of all time, and it's on his second album. It's just soaked and nasty. You could just picture like atom bombs going off and shit as the song's playing and stuff. It's pretty sweet. Hand of Doom, an absolute classic, real heavy song. Planet Caravan's pretty cool. I always liked that one a lot. That's for me, I feel like in the early era of Sabbath, probably Tony's best guitar solo was on Planet Caravan. It's so technically proficient. You could definitely see his like Django Reinhardt influence on a song like that with that solo. But Fairies Wear Boots, super cool. I saw Ozzy play both that and War Pigs live back in 2018. It's real cool to see. But that's a real underrated song. Rat Salad's all right, I guess. I like that one. It's just a fantastic album across the board. There's nothing I can take away from it at all. And for me, it's one of those albums, it's never been the one that I go to the most by the band. So I really haven't gotten that burnt out on the songs because it's not like I play it that album every day. Like I'll put it on maybe like once every couple of years, and every time I'm like, damn, this album's so much better than I remembered. So it ranks pretty high for me. It's an absolute masterpiece and really set the band off.
Okay, cool. Good one. Good choice. My number three is Sabotage from 75. Fantastic album. I have in my notes, the vocals on every track are very intense. Like they're just angry, but just again intense. It was written around the time where they were dealing with management issues, like people trying to like try and steal from them. They felt that they were kind of like backed into a corner where they couldn't trust anybody, which was a song of Megalomania. But the whole album is good, like Hole in the Sky, uh, Don't Start Too Late, the instrumental, Symptoms of the Universe. Uh, think of it all. Super Czar is great. Uh, I like the instrumental because it's got. I said in one of my other shows quickly that track almost sounds like it could have been in the movie The Omen. You know what I mean? As like background music, as incidental music, because you have sort of like I call it the forces of good versus evil kind of thing, right? Like who's going to win? Who's going to win in the battle, right? And you never know who's going to win, right? So that for me is a fantastic piece of work. It's very epic. It's very grand, very I don't want to say operatic, but it's very big in scope in terms of its production. Am I Going Insane Radio, which I believe was a single from the album. Fantastic track. And The Writ, I mean, like, come on. Again, another epic track. So yeah, that's my number 3, Sabotage. Okay. All right, Bill.
All right,
Number
number 2. I'm really kind of surprised I'm going to rank this higher than anybody else. And I'm frankly surprised myself that I ranked it this high. But on the plus side, I mentioned Armando at halftime. I quit listening to radio years ago, so I do not have the fatigue. It's Paranoid. Yeah, sure,
Yeah.
War Pigs,
Okay.
Iron Man, Paranoid. Those are the songs that everybody knows. But this album's a masterpiece. It's legendary for a reason. It's a 10 out of 10. No matter how many times it's played, no matter how much my inner hipster wants to pick something else this high, I can't. Paranoid is just that masterful an album, and it's not just the popular tracks. I absolutely adore Planet Caravan and Electric Funeral. Electric Funeral, oh my, yeah, love it. Okay, yep. But there's one. There can be only one here, and it's not Paranoid. So, to be continued.
Okay. Over to Neil.
All righty. My number 2 is Bob Rules.
Wow.
Just kick-ass heavy record. That's basically what I'm going for. If I want some hard rock or some heavy metal, I want it aggressive. I want it in my face. I want to basically be scared that this thing's going to slap me before it buys me a drink. And if the record doesn't make me feel like that, then it's not aggressive enough for me.
If it's
This
slaps you,
record does
don't
that.
accept a drink. You're not gonna like it. Go on. Sorry. Go on.
But yeah, everyone's brought up Sign of the Southern Cross for a good reason. It's just an epic track. From start to finish, it's one of those moments in metal that you don't realize it's an 8-minute long song because it's just so fucking awesome the entire time. The title track is amazing. I even like Country Girl. I like the whole record start to finish. It's what I wanted out of anything in this realm of music, for lack of a better description. It hits what I want, and I love it for it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Fantastic. That's a good choice. Over to Peter.
Number 2, my number 2 went for Master of Reality. Yeah, very doomy, sludgy sort of album. I like it though. It's very infectious, easy to get into. Very doomy, as I said. Starts off with the Tony Iommi coughing with Sweet Leaf. Really great track. Love that. I like Ozzy's vocals, very upfront in this. After Forever is a good one. I like the little interludes, Embryo and what's it, Orchid. Love those. My favorite song is Children of the Grave, though. I love the drum work in there from Bill Ward. My standout song for me. Lord of This World's great. Solitude's a nice mellow number, very good, and a great riff with Into the Void at the end. So yeah, number 2, Master of Reality. Great album.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Okay, Ryan, you're number 2.
Also Master of Reality. So while I had Paranoid at 3, and I thought about having it 2, I just feel like this album I like slightly more. I mean, the standout track on this album for me is Lord of This World. There's been times where I've called that my favorite Black Sabbath song. It just kicks ass. Great riffs throughout that entire song. Amazing Ozzy vocal performance on there. It's just like, I feel like that song, along with their eponymous track, Black Sabbath, I feel like this song sums up the band more than pretty much anything else. You got Sweet Leaf on here too, which definitely a classic. Great little cough on there and stuff. Great riff. And, you know, it's just a love song. The Weed. It's pretty funny. I guess that's a good way to start stoner metal as a genre. Like, you know, um, um, but yeah, After Forever on there. Good track once again. Children of the Grave, I've always really enjoyed. Um, and it really never gets, it's never done better than on here, honestly. I've heard Ozzy do it tons of times on like live albums and stuff. It's never going to be as good as this original version. Um, Into the Void's another absolute classic. I love that song. I remember that was probably like one of the first Black Sabbath songs I ever really fell in love with. I feel like I knew like a couple of them, like Iron Man and stuff, like, but I remember like a Guitar World magazine that had the tab for Into the Void, and I was just sitting there trying to learn it and stuff. And then I actually heard the song. I searched it up to hear what it was. I was like, holy fuck, this is good. I was just blown away. But yeah, this is just a classic album that basically invented a genre. Cool, simple album cover. It's nice and short. It's did like the whole Rain and Blood type of thing, like a short album, you know, like I've always been a big fan of keeping albums as short as possible. Um, so I appreciate that. And you got cool instrumentals and stuff on here too. It's just a classic.
Okay, cool. All right, my number 2 and number 1 were switched early on. My number 2 is Heaven and Hell. When I first saw the video for Neon Nights, I must have been about 12 years old, not realizing who really Black Sabbath was. And even back then, I really loved Dio's vocals. I just, I thought, um, I thought that the songwriting went up a notch with Dio, because and Tony Iommi also said he wasn't knocking Ozzy by saying this, but he said that Ozzy would generally just when you would do a vocal line, you would copy the guitar line on verses and stuff. He really didn't do anything that was separate from what was done on the guitar. Ronnie James Dio would listen to a piece of music and he'd come up with these vocal melodies and runs that were just crisp, clear, clean, beautiful, just soaring. And I love that. I love that. And the album is fantastic. Neo Nights, forget about it. I mean, holy shit. 3 minutes plus of just energetic rock and just bloody fantastic vocals from Ronnie James Dio. Children of the Sea, like, come on. I mean, like fantastic track. Heaven and Hell, the 2 parts, Heaven and Hell, fantastic. Wishing Well, Die Young, just brilliant, brilliant. Lonely as the Word is okay, is good. But yeah, that's my number two. Guess what my number one is? So moving on. Moving
I'm
on
gonna
to
guess
Bill.
it's the devil you know.
That's exactly it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it's
I'm
Magica.
probably wrong.
It's Magica.
Yeah, man.
Just as long as it's not whatever piece number one.
All right. Yeah, no more copying. That's it.
I'm not
All
saying a
right.
word. Go on, number one.
I don't want to sabotage you. Oh wait, hey, that's my number one.
There we go.
Sabotage. That is. I mean, you guys have pretty well said everything there is to say about it. This album is well known and well regarded among Sabbath fans for many reasons. Yeah, I agree. It's Ozzy's best vocal performance. The only thing that keeps side two from being one of the greatest album sides ever is the fact that side one is even better. And I think side one starts so strong with Hole in the Sky, but it gets better as it goes. Symptom of the Universe speaks for itself. But Megalomania, wow, I think that's even better. And yeah, I when Ryan did the suck me, I immediately went to Rob Halford. Oh, bug me. Are these guys comparing notes also? The metal gods are conferring amongst themselves for these deep pronouncements. But yeah, I don't know. This thing can't be beat. It's for 1975. This is heavy as hell. This is just ridiculous.
It is.
And it still stands up. It's still super heavy and it sounds good. And yeah, I like the anger. I like the fact that they're taking out the anger at the management, at the record companies, in their lyrics, the music, the vocals. It's all palpable. It's a very emotional album. It's the anger's real. It's not an act.
Yeah.
These guys are pissed off. They're hurting. They're having rough times, and it shows, and it makes for a masterpiece.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Sabotage, number one.
Okay. Neil.
Yeah. Oh, where?
There we go.
There we go. Camera tried switching on me. My number one was way lower in everybody else's list, but mine is Dehumanizer.
Nice.
I think it's the same lineup as Mob Rules, if I remember right. So it makes sense that I would enjoy it because it has that same type of pissed off in your face vibe. And I think it kind of amps up that a little bit as well. I think it's just their heaviest, angriest sounding record, and I love it for what it is. Computer God, After All, Letters from Earth, Master of Insanity, like full of awesome songs. I is an amazing song. The production rocks. It just heavy, it's nasty, it's in your face and angry the entire time. And there can be some parts where, like was mentioned earlier, where you can tell Dio is just a little trying to sound angry almost. But I think most of the time it works out pretty well. And it makes for a hell of a fucking listen. And if you're in the mood for something just angry and in your face, I love it. And it's probably why it's my favorite by them, honestly.
Okay. All right. Good choice. Peter, you're number one.
Number one, I went for Sabotage. Yeah, I just love it. I love his vocals. I think it's his best vocal album, Ozzy. I like how it's a little sophisticated in parts. It's got a bit of prog feel to it. Starts off with Hole in the Sky, a great rocker, really great. Like the little instrumental, and then Symptom of the Universe. Everyone said the great riff. It's a great song, Symptom of the Universe. I like how it sort of at the end goes into, sounds like another song towards the end. Yeah, how it changes. And I even probably, although I love Symptom of the Universe, I even probably prefer Megalomania, which is one of my favorite, could be a top 5 song for me from Sabbath. A great song, really long. Thrill of It All, love that as well. I love Super Czar, the very grandiose sort of sounding instrumental. Am I Going Insane? Radio sounds a bit out of place, but it's good. It's a bit quirky, quite like it. And the Rit, yeah, great song to finish. Ozzy sounds very angry in that one, yeah. But the band at the time were, they weren't in a good position with, so their backs were against the wall, but they made a great album. So that's my number one. Sabotage, yeah.
Cool. Cool. Good choice. Okay, Ryan, you're number one.
Black Sabbath. I feel like, we talked about a lot of fantastic albums tonight, but this one's the one that does it for me every single time. It's the one that I go back to the most. It's the one that I find something new in it that blows me away every single time. It's 39 minutes to the point. It's terrifying the whole way through. It's gloomy. It all runs together really, really well. There's cool jamming moments in it. Geezer sounds better than he ever does again on this album. He kills it on here. You got the title track, which is one of the scariest songs ever made. There's so much conviction in Ozzy's voice as he's screaming like, "Oh no, please God help me," and stuff. Like, it's just awesome. You got the thunder, you got the riff, the Devil's Tritone or whatever it's called. It's like it's as evil as it gets. The Wizard kicks ass, great riff there, great harmonica and stuff. Yeah, Behind the Wall of Sleep, which I love. NIB, Wicked World, which is probably a top 5 Sabbath song for me. Killer riff there, awesome vocals. You got Warning on here, which is Geezer heaven. Just like it's a cover song, but it's like it kicks so much ass. And it jams forever. I mean, this album's just, I feel like definitely like one of the greatest albums of the 70s. It really, you could see instantly how much it changed and how much it influenced music right away. Regardless of what morons like Lester Bangs said about it being like a Cream rip off, that guy. But this is just as good as it gets. It's my favorite Black Sabbath album. Um, and it's probably my favorite metal album of all time.
Okay. Well, I mean, good choice, by the way. At the time that it came out, people didn't know what to make of it. It was just so different from what was going on at the time that it was just like, holy shit, with the rain at the start of the title track and just when the guitars come in on the title track and it's like, what the hell are we listening to? Like, what is this? And just quickly, Ozzy Osbourne said that listening to the first Led Zeppelin album, he said that to him it was like a breath of fresh air. That it was okay to do heavier music, right? Like that Zeppelin made it okay for people to do heavier music than what was going on at the time. So it is a good album. I will still say that cover did scare the shit out of me when I was a 10-year-old or 12-year-old. I mean, not even realizing what the hell it was, right? So there you go. My number one is big surprise. Music. What was that? Magica. No. It's Marlboro's. This was going to be my number two. To me, with this album, they turned it up one notch over Heaven and Hell. With songs like, Turn Up the Night. Voodoo is a fantastic track. Just his vocals alone, just again, very crisp and clean and very good harmony with his vocals. The Sign of the Southern Cross. I mean, there are albums where you have tracks on these certain albums that sort of anchor the album, but they're also like the centerpiece of a certain album. And this to me is the centerpiece of Marlboro's. Then you have, the title track itself, just energetic, fantastic vocal, fantastic guitar. And a good message in the chorus, right? Country Girl, yeah, it's all right. Yeah. Slipping Away is another good one. Falling Off the Edge of the World is another fantastic track, and Over as an ender. Just a really solid album. And it's unfortunate that they couldn't keep it together for a third release, with that lineup, right? So yeah, that's it, guys. We actually did it.
Yeah.
We got to number one. So ladies and
I
gentlemen,
was in my 50s when we started. I'm in my 60s now.
I know. We started this, I was 53, and now I'm 54 and a half, right? Shit. But so there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, our Black Sabbath album ranking, 19-1. So in the comments down below, please put your album ranking for Black Sabbath. Pick top 10, top 5, or you can do the entire list of 19. So I want to thank everyone on the panel. I want to thank Neil and Bill Schuster. I want to thank Ryan Gavalier for joining in, and Mr. Peter Kent from the Lizard King channel. Please check out Peter Kent's channel, Lizard King channel. Fantastic content on there. He's got some videos up over the past few days that you should really check out. And Bill and I are going to be back at some point with a new series. Our favorite 5 albums from 1970 to 1979. So we are going to pick our favorite 5 albums plus 2 honorable mentions. So that's going to be over the next coming weeks. We're going to make it like a series. Surprise, Bill. Let's see what we're going to come up with. And we may carry that on into the 80s and 90s. But we're going to see how this goes with the 70s. So for everyone on the panel, I want to wish everyone a good night. Please look after yourselves and one another. And we will see you soon with another video. All right. Have a good night. Bye for now.